Winnie looked up at Jeffrey and said, "Besides, the size of the apples, can you please enlighten me on how different this apple is from the one Ben gave me? It's obvious that it has wax on it as well."
"Pretty apples all look like that. I can't do anything about it, but I can peel the skin off for you,"
Jeffrey said as he picked up a fruit knife from the table. Winnie kept quiet. Jeffrey took her apple and started peeling the skin off. Winnie dug into her dinner. It was already 7 and she was getting quite hungry. After a while, Jeffrey handed the apple back to her.
"Have this. You have to have an apple."
Winnie took it from him. He did a good job peeling the fruit. The apple was clean and he didn't take too much out of the flesh. She took 2 bites before Jeffrey leaned in and took a bite too. He remarked,
"How sweet."
Winnie was blushing. It was obvious to her that he no longer cared about what others thought of them. After a while, Jeffrey took a bite of the apple that Ben had gifted her. He said,
"This apple tastes bland. It isn't sweet at all. Thank goodness I didn't let you eat this."
Winnie quickly stuffed his mouth with some beef to shut him up. Jeffrey was grinning, watching her. "Hey, stop being so gross and mushy." Jennifer walked over to them. "Jeffrey, the MC is asking for you." Jeffrey walked over to the MC to find Ben and Leonard there as well. Ben recognized the apple in his hands immediately. It was the apple he picked out, especially for Winnie, the biggest and reddest one of the bunch. Jeffrey was munching on it.
"This is your apple, isn't it?"
Jeffrey said with glee.
"Winnie said that she wanted to have my apple, so she gave me this one instead. It doesn't taste so great."
Ben's temples throbbed. Leonard was at a loss for words in that situation. He was caught in between the two of them. An awkward silence filled the air. Before they entered the venue, the head of marketing went over and said, "There's been an emergency. The hotel that we booked was leaked to Jennifer's fans. The address is posted all over the internet. We're anticipating a lot of fans crowding over there tonight, so we've decided to change the hotel for the sake of everyone's safety and security. Is that okay with everyone?" "It's all right," Jennifer sighed helplessly. "This is all because of me. I'm sorry, everybody."
"It's okay. Fans are like that sometimes," Leonard comforted her.
The marketing chief continued, "The arrangements will be the same for everyone. Are there any changes? Everyone will be staying tonight except for Zachary."
"I don't need a room,"
Jeffrey said lazily with his hands in his pocket. Everyone looked over at Winnie and she had a bad feeling in her stomach. Jeffrey continued,
"I'll be staying in the same room as Winnie. No need to waste resources. Can we get a larger room for ourselves, please?" "Whoa, youngsters, I had no idea," Terry chuckled.
Everyone was looking at both of them suggestively. Jennifer gave Winnie a gentle nudge and said, "Good for you. I didn't know that you two had progressed to that stage already." Winnie really wanted to bury herself underground. He was practically announcing to everyone that they were sleeping together already. She was absolutely embarrassed. Ben looked at her in shock. He felt ill and couldn't make a sound, as if there was a fishbone stuck in his throat. The two of them were already sleeping together? Jeffrey was extremely pleased when he saw Ben's despondent look and despair. He was looking for something to that effect. At 8 o'clock, Winnie was set to launch the premiere with a performance of the theme song. Since it was too awkward to stay in the room with the others, she left early to prepare for her performance. When it was time, everyone started streaming in. Jeffrey was sitting below the stage, watching her. Winnie was acting more and more like a superstar. There were lots of people present, from friends and seniors in the industry, and yet she was able to interact freely and gracefully with the audience. No wonder he liked her so much. This woman was his. He looked over at Ben mockingly. Ben sensed his gaze immediately, and the two of them made eye contact. He glared at Jeffrey. Jeffrey smirked at him before turning his attention back to Winnie. After Winnie had finished her performance, everyone went up on stage. Ben and Jeffrey walked up together. Ben quietly whispered to him, I get it that you were together with Winnie. That's enough of that, whatever you're trying to do.
Enough? Jeffrey laughed. What do you mean, enough? Ben, come on. She's my woman for the rest of her life. Better keep your distance from her in the future.
Ben was enraged. If it were not for that fateful night, he would have never given up on Winnie. Now that the two of them were out of the question, why must Jeffrey continue sprinkling salt on his wounds?
Jeffrey, please don't go any further.
He walked onto the stage after that. The film was screened at 9:30 p.m. It was the first screening, and it meant a lot to everyone present. Although they had all watched it before, they were still happy to watch it again with all their fans. Winnie and Jeffrey were seated together. The theater was dark, and once the lights were turned down, Jeffrey reached over for her hand swiftly. What did you say to Ben just now? Asked Winnie as she leaned towards him.
It's between men,
Jeffrey said with a straight face. Winnie frowned. Jeffrey, stop trying to aggravate him. To be honest, she felt sorry for Ben. Jeffrey didn't realize that. He was like a porcupine in defense.
Why? You feel bad for him?
Don't be lame. Winnie decided to focus on the film. It seemed like Jeffrey was only going to get provoked if she continued talking about it. She had given him everything. They even had a child together. Why must he get so sensitive about things like that? Jeffrey grunted as he crossed his legs. Some time had passed as the movie played. At 11:30 p.m., the film ended and Terry was the first to say,
Winnie, didn't you say that you were going to treat us all out to supper?
Of course. I didn't forget about my promise. You can make the reservations and we'll all drive over later, Winnie said, smiling.
I'll pass. I just came back from the States yesterday and I didn't get any rest on the plane. I need to catch up on some sleep, Ben said tiredly.
All right. Rest well then. Winnie knew that Jeffrey would continue to try to trigger him and decided it was best not to ask him to stay. The three of them were always awkward around each other anyway. The rest of the crew knew about Winnie and Ben's past, so nobody forced Ben to stay. The supper was delicious. It was a seaside city and there were plenty of seafood options. The weather was nice and chilly, but not too cold either. Everyone was seated at the street store as they ordered a couple of beers, Australian abalone, salt and pepper shrimp, crabs, and fish. Jennifer and Sean went all out and ordered the most food. Jeffrey reminded the two of them,
Be careful not to get too fat or just high blood pressure,
Jennifer grinned and said, I love free food. I love saving my own money and watching my bank account numbers climb higher and higher. Does anyone else feel the same way? Leonard looked at her sparkling eyes and remarked,
Aren't you just a misser then?
That's right, Jennifer nodded with pride. Leonard smiled as he took a sip of his beer and continued to stare at her. Winnie looked at Leonard and then back at Jennifer. She smiled in surprise. Terry stood up to pour everyone a drink.
Come on, it's our film premiere. Our special day. Let's all have a drink.
After finding out that Winnie was the woman he had slept with the last time he was drunk as a skunk, Jeffrey was no longer as hesitant to drink. He reminded Terry gently,
I can drink, but I must not get drunk. Of course, who are you guys? Superstars! There's a bunch of paparazzi following all of you outside. You shouldn't get too drunk and ruin your image,
Terry said as he took the lead and emptied his glass of beer. Terry was the life of the party. Apart from Jeffrey's cold exterior and Winnie's introversion, everyone else there was outgoing and fun as individuals. The atmosphere was hyping up very quickly. At around 1 a.m, Sean stood up with his bottle of beer and announced,
Everyone, the producer just gave me a call. As of tonight, we've already sold 50 million tickets at the box office.
Everyone was surprised by the good news and was in good spirits. It was a remarkable feat for a film that was just released hours before.
Seems like breaking 100 million won't be a problem then.
Winnie smiled. If we get good reviews, more moviegoers will come to watch our film as well.
Yes, Terry stood up. Enough said. This is great news. Everyone pick up your bottle. If you're a man, you have to drink with me.
Every man present raised their glasses. Jeffrey looked over at Winnie and said softly,
If I get too drunk later, keep a close eye on me. Don't let any wild, passionate women just take me for the night.
Don't drink so much, Winnie reminded him. They all drank until 2 a.m. When they parted ways, there was a big group of them who were dead drunk. Jeffrey was feeling dizzy as well. When Winnie helped Jeffrey into the car, she caught sight of Jennifer's assistant and Lou helping her into the car as well. She frowned, but before she could get a closer look, Jeffrey grabbed her collar and pulled her into the car with him.
What are you looking at? Let's go.
Jeffrey wrapped his arms around her tightly and nuzzled his face into the nape of her neck.
Winnie, don't move around. I'm feeling really dizzy.
Winnie could smell the strong stench of alcohol on him. She was too terrified to move around. She was worried that he might throw up on her. After the car drove off, Winnie asked the driver, Are we being followed?
Nope,
the driver shook his head. Jeffrey muttered under his breath,
Who would dare to follow us? I'm a shareholder and a director. No reporter would dare to write about us without getting a green light from our company.
Winnie heaved a sigh of relief. There were many perks to dating someone as influential and as powerful as him. In the hotel, Jeffrey leaned against Winnie as she looked for their room. He rested his hand on her shoulder and saw Ben walking out of the elevator. Although his senses were dulled, he could still muster enough to smirk at him. Ben had obviously lied about retiring early to his room. He must have gone out and partied as well. We're here, Winnie stopped in front of the door. When she opened it, Jeffrey pushed her into the room before she could turn and get him. He pressed her against the closet near the doorway and started kissing her. Winnie was already a little tipsy, and his swift maneuver got her a little dizzy too. When she caught hold of the situation, his kisses were forceful and hot with urgency. There wasn't room for her to breathe at all. Jeffrey, Winnie was clouded in a heavy mist of lust. The door.
Baby, did you miss me? I've been wanting to kiss you like this for a long time.
Jeffrey lifted her legs around him in such a way that she ended up straddling him, her legs off the ground. She was left weak and trembling beneath his hot kisses. They got it going on for 2 days straight before. Winnie felt those feelings come back to her after a week of not seeing each other. She wrapped her arms around his neck and kissed him for a long time. She suddenly recalled that the door wasn't shut. She looked over and saw Ben standing in the doorway, looking at her with eyes filled with pain and sadness. His gaze reminded her of what had happened that night. Her heart dropped and she felt awful. Thankfully, Ben stalked off fast enough with his long legs. Winnie understood what had just happened. She pushed Jeffrey away forcefully and shut the room door.
Oh, we didn't close the door.
Jeffrey squinted his eyes as he spoke with a drawl. Before he could approach her and kiss her again, Winnie pushed him aside and said, Jeffrey, enough with your games. Ben's gone.
What? Ben? I don't know what you're talking about.
Jeffrey persisted as he tried to dive into her again. After a bit of kissing, he realized that she wasn't reciprocating any of his at all. She was dead silent. He finally pulled himself away and looked at her darkly. Winnie looked back at him with disappointment. Just think about it. How many times did you try to rile him up tonight? It's fine to go public with our relationship. People are aware of it anyway. There's no need to do this. Ben and I are a thing of the past.
Why do you care so much about him then if it's a thing of the past? Winnie, you obviously care about his feelings.
Jeffrey's handsome face turned dark and moody. I think you're being too deliberate and petty. With the apple, what happened on stage, and just now? Winnie expounded, listing all the events that had happened that night. I have a kid with you. I'm yours. Is it really necessary to do this because of what happened in the past? Ben has no hidden agenda.
You've been paying close attention, haven't you? You noticed that we spoke on stage? Jeffrey said as he looked at her with a cold expression. You're afraid that he'll get hurt, aren't you? You're right. He didn't say anything about making up with you, but when we were in Venice, he was always nearby around you. You would sit with him at every meal, and you guys got along so well. It was so obvious from your laughter. No matter where you were, he wouldn't be far from you. We were able to hold a conversation and have a good laugh because we both moved on, Winnie explained. He's only around to say hi. Oh, really? Jeffrey looked at her. If he really moved on, why is he always staring at you? Why did he look so disappointed to find out that we were seeing each other? Why do I feel as though there's always some unspoken bond or chemistry between the two of you? Just like the night that they had spent at the hotel, an entire night. She had said that nothing had happened, but he still had no clue what went on that night. Winnie didn't want to answer his question. It was late and they both had a bit too much to drink. She was feeling exhausted. Jeffrey, we should be treasuring what we have now. You shouldn't be so hung up on the past. We have been through so much and we finally found our way back to each other. Do you still not have any trust in me? It's Christmas today. We broke up on this day last year. Why can't we enjoy a nice, happy vacation for a change? Jeffrey was shaken. His lips trembled. Winnie, I'm gonna take a shower. Winnie walked toward the bathroom. Before she could get far, Jeffrey grabbed her from behind and pulled her into his arms. His arms were wrapped around her chest and his voice was soft and a little hoarse. Merry Christmas, Winnie. I don't want to fight with you. I just want to spend every Christmas day with you. Will you do me the honor of being my Christmas soulmate? Winnie stayed quiet for a while before she turned to hug him back. Why would I be standing here with you if I didn't want the same thing? But you have to promise me, Ben is in our past. Jeffrey looked at her with complicated feelings. You shouldn't be asking me about Ben. You should be asking yourself. I won't bring it up again if you really are over him. I have moved on. Winnie looked at him confidently and with undeniable certainty. All right, I'll let it go too. Jeffrey stared at her for a few seconds before he lifted her, literally sweeping her off her feet. He walked toward the bed and removed his leather jacket. Wait, said Winnie, stunned as she grabbed onto the collar of his jacket. He always made her so flustered when he caught her off guard like that. I haven't showered. We'll have to shower again later. Let's not waste water. Let's do the deed first. You have no idea how much I've missed you this week, Jeffrey said seductively as he planted his lips firmly onto hers. He snuck in a nibble on her plump, juicy lips. Winnie fluttered her eyelashes, and soon she was on the bed with him. She finally understood how thirsty a man who had just tasted blood could be. It was as if the doors to a new world had been opened, and there was no satisfying his hunger, especially after having a few drinks. He was even wilder than before. In a dreamlike daze, it was almost like their first night together. They made passionate love to each other. It was dark out. The night sky was pitch black like a bottle of ink. Ben was sitting by the window with a bottle of red wine in his hands. He was drinking it straight from the bottle. Ben, that's enough. How many bottles have you had? His manager went up to him and grabbed the bottle. So what? You've got your heart broken. You should have seen this day coming. Yes, I saw it coming. I gave her my blessing. Ben thumped his chest with his fist. But it hurts over here. I had the right to fight for her in the past, but I've lost all that. What time is it? Do you know what they're doing in the room right now? Ben bent down and sat on the carpet, exhausted. It was so painful when I saw them making out so passionately like that. It would have been much more bearable if I didn't see them, but I did. I can't help but think about what we had in the past. We were together for so long. She was so precious to me, to even indulge in when we slept together on the same bed. She doesn't even belong to me now.
His manager patted his shoulders. He didn't know what else to say.
This is all because of that wicked woman. She turned me into the man I am today.
Ben's handsome face contorted in anger.
I'm gonna kill her myself one day.
The two camps ended the night very differently. The next morning, when he woke up in the arch of Jeffrey's arm, it was Christmas morning. She looked up at his prominent features. Every line was perfect and his neck was smooth and elegant. Yes, he would look good with a necklace on him. Winnie carefully removed his hand and almost immediately, she was forced down from behind. A sexy body was pressed down against hers.
Where do you think you're going?
You're awake. Winnie was stunned. She turned to see his sleepy expression as he struggled to open his eyes. He was grinning happily.
Of course I am. My stamina's improving after so many rounds of practice with you. I won't let you wake up before me while I'm still sleeping like a log anymore.
Jeffrey wrapped his strong arms around her underneath the sheets.
Where are you going? Are you going to go make me breakfast?
Winnie's heart was thumping and she didn't dare move a muscle. They were both naked under the sheets.
Why aren't you moving?
Jeffrey teased as he nudged her with his foot. Cut it out! Winnie felt ticklish. I was going to get your Christmas present and put it on for you, but you woke up and ruined the surprise for yourself.
Oh, really?
Jeffrey was disappointed. The only time he managed to wake up, he ruined the surprise that his girlfriend had planned for him.
I'll close my eyes then. Can you put it on for me?
He shut his eyes tightly. His hair was ruffled and his expression was serene but childlike. Winnie's heart went soft looking at him and she was reminded of Jenny. She couldn't help but kiss his forehead with delicate affection. Jeffrey smiled under her kiss and said gleefully,
I asked you to put on the present. What'd you kiss me for? How in love are you with me?
I was just reminded of my daughter. Winnie cupped his face with her hands and said playfully.
Jeffrey opened his eyes wide and tried to protest. Winnie?
Don't open your eyes, I'm getting your present, Winnie said as she covered his eyes with her hands. Jeffrey was still again. Winnie climbed out of bed and quickly put on some clothes, barely covering herself up. She found her bag and took out a necklace. She tied it around his neck. After she was done, Jeffrey opened his eyes. He was expecting a luxury brand necklace of some sort, but it was instead a white jade pendant. Jeffrey blinked, speechlessly. He had never worn anything like that in 20 years of his life.
This is...
It's holy. I went to the temple and said some prayers with it. It's for safety. Winnie lay back down beside him and continued. I think nothing is more important than your safety. Jeffrey looked at her a little astonished. He was deeply moved and grabbed her shoulder tightly before kissing her on the lips. Why did it mean so much to receive a pendant from her? Winnie was shocked by his reaction too. What are you doing? It was just a pendant. She wasn't sure about her choice of present at first, although she made sure it was good quality jade. Not a lot of men wore those kind of things.
No one's ever given me something like this before, Jeffrey said. I grew up overseas, and I don't really see a lot of these things. My mother isn't a believer either.
Winnie thought about his past and felt bad for him. My parents believe in these things quite a bit. I've always worn something like this ever since I was a kid. It's difficult these days because I have to attend all sorts of events, and that's the only reason why I stopped.
Baby, I love your present. Let me give you something too.
Jeffrey smiled mysteriously as he passed her a CD from his bag.
you're a big fan of Beyonce, aren't you? I asked someone to record a video of her wishing you Merry Christmas. It's signed as well.
Winnie looked at it, and it was really Beyonce's signature on the desk. She covered her mouth in delight. Jeffrey, how did you do it? This is amazing. Jeffrey was satisfied with her reaction.
This is nothing. Oh, right. I recorded a video there too. You can watch it when you're back home.
He cleared his throat.
I was planning to give this to you last Christmas, but we had a huge fight instead.
Winnie was startled. So this was the gift that he had planned the year before. He had put so much thought into the gift. Jeffrey, thank you, said Winnie as she jumped into his arms. Jeffrey inhaled sharply as he looked at her with fire in his eyes.
Please, dear, I'm not wearing anything down there.
Winnie was embarrassed, but before she could escape, Jeffrey pulled her into the sheets. The two of them were tangled together beneath the sheets. Right before Jeffrey could get to the main course, Winnie's phone started ringing. She reached out to pick up her phone, but Jeffrey pressed down on her arms and wouldn't let her.
Don't answer, just let it ring.
No, maybe it's something important. Winnie pushed against him forcefully. She managed to free her hands and crawled to where her phone was. The call was from April. Just as she was about to pick up, Jeffrey picked her up and dropped her back down on the bed relentlessly.
Winnie, look at me now. How can you even think about picking up a phone call? You should be trying to put out the fire.
As if it's your sister. Winnie shot him a warning glare.
Shut up.
She picked up the phone and asked, April, what's the matter? I have something urgent to ask you, April said hurriedly. Did you see the news this morning? The news? Winnie felt anxious. She wondered if a reporter had taken a photo of her and Jeffrey. What news? As she was talking on the phone, Jeffrey scooted over and nibbled on her ears. It was her most sensitive area, and she nearly dropped her phone. It's Jennifer, April said. Jennifer and Leonard are in the headlines. Winnie sat upright.
What happened?
Don't you know? I saw on the news that you all had supper together last night, April said worriedly. Anyway, someone snapped a photo of Jennifer and Leonard entering a hotel room together after supper. She sighed before continuing. Richard is furious after reading the news. She's not answering her phone either. I just wanted to ask if you have any news. I'm not sure about that. I had a bit too much to drink. But when we left last night, Jennifer was quite tipsy, so Leonard and her assistant helped her into the car. I'm not sure what happened after that. The reporters might just be pulling things out of context. Her assistant must have been there all along, too, when he frowned while explaining. I didn't think that Jennifer fancied Leonard. April sighed. It's all trouble now. Richard is quite bothered by the incident, she said. I just want them to be happy together. I'll go look for her later. I don't think she checked out yet. She might be sleeping in like me. Just as Winnie said that, Jeffrey started kissing her in her nether regions and she nearly moaned. She quickly said, I have something going on. I need to hang up now. As soon as she hung up, she kicked him in the chest. Jeffrey, didn't you hear me on the phone? Something happened. How are you still in the mood for sex?
It doesn't concern the two of us anyway. Jeffrey rubbed his chest. It's just a bit of a scandal. It happens to all celebrities. Anyway, in this circle, the more glamorous and popular you are, the more people will be watching you. More people will be trying to drag you down as well. If Jennifer can't handle that, she shouldn't be staying in this industry.
Winnie was shocked. What do you mean by that?
Someone is trying to bring her down.
Jeffrey leaned against the pillow lazily.
Even you have people who are jealous of you, much less a superstar like her. After the Venice Film Festival, she has been receiving acting roles and offers from everywhere. And her movie is doing so well at the box office, too. She is going to be nominated for all kinds of awards this year, for sure. The media's watching her now, but they wouldn't dare to post things about her too hastily. She does have a strong backing after all. The news last night was let out so surreptitiously that no surprise someone must have coordinated the whole incident. Think about it. She has a boyfriend like Richard protecting her, and she's soaring high as well, career-wise. Of course someone would be jealous of her. Winnie fell silent. Indeed, as a singer, many people were jealous of her, much less the larger circle of the acting industry. But Leonard? Honestly, I think he likes Jennifer. I saw it last night. I don't know. I don't pay attention to other women. Jeffrey lay down in a comfortable position. But Leonard said that she was neither his girlfriend nor wife, and that it's not weird for a man to be attracted to a woman. What's more, in showbiz, many actors develop an affection for each other while filming. But being exposed like that is bad press for Jennifer. After all, the public knows she's dating Richard, and now they're saying that she entered a room with another man. People will think that she's two-timing him. In this society, when a male celebrity cheats on someone, he can be forgiven. Even though it will create an uproar among women in the public, it will die down after a while. However, if a female celebrity is found to be cheating, both male and female celebrities will be criticized. Many do not have happy endings. What you said makes sense. I want to ask Jennifer what happened. Winnie was unable to sit still anymore. She quickly got up to wear her clothes again. Jeffrey did not stop her. After all, Jennifer had helped him in Venice. He should be a little concerned for her. As Winnie was about to leave, he suddenly said, "Tell Jennifer this. Even if she has no acting projects in the future, I will still fulfill my promise to her." "What promise?" "I'm not telling you." Jeffrey turned over to sleep. Jennifer stayed downstairs. Winnie knocked on the door. It took a long time for her assistant to open the door. "Miss Winnie, why are you here?" "Is Jennifer awake? I'm here because of the rumors this morning," Winnie said earnestly. "Come in." Her assistant moved aside. Winnie entered and saw Jennifer talking on the phone at the bedside with her hair down. Upon seeing Winnie, she nodded her head and continued her conversation. "I've said that I have no relationship with Leonard. He left after sending me in. If you don't believe me, ask my assistant. I have no ambiguous relationship with him. Why would you believe those articles? There were so many people there yesterday." Winnie waited for about 3 minutes before Jennifer hung up the phone. She walked toward her listlessly. "Have you had breakfast? I wasn't expecting such a big thing to happen after waking up." "Is there anyone who wants to harm you?" Winnie asked worriedly. "There are many people who would wish me harm," Jennifer said coldly as she sat on her chair. "Recently, I've been auditioning for an important role in a new movie. If my reputation's ruined, the directing team will not consider me anymore. And then there's my other movie that was only released yesterday. If the male and female leads get bad press, it will affect the box office performance. Besides, there are also those lascivious admirers of Richard. It's not as simple as it seems." Winnie was surprised. CEO Richard's lascivious admirers? "Winnie, Richard is handsome and he's senior management in the entertainment industry. He's funny, entertaining, and likes to play around outside. What woman wouldn't like that kind of man?" Jennifer laughed. Winnie stayed silent. Suddenly, she felt that Jeffrey, despite being petty, mean, and does not like to go out, was a pretty decent boyfriend. "Are you here to show your concern for me?" "Thank you," Jennifer added. "Actually, I knew that there were reporters following me, but we usually give them some tips to close an eye.
This time, though, they messed with me behind my back. This was definitely premeditated, but it doesn't matter. Having stumbled around in the industry for years, there hasn't been any kind of boisterous waves that I have not seen before. As long as I walk straight and stand tall, I'll be fine. Don't worry, I'll help you clear up the situation, Winnie said. You helped me last time, and Jeffrey said that he would still keep his promise. He did? Then I don't have to worry. Jennifer was a little surprised and smiled. What did he promise you? Winnie asked curiously. He didn't tell you? Since I matched both of you there, he said he would help me win the Best Actress Award in Venice. Jennifer smiled. He's crazy. Doesn't he have any shame? Winnie sighed. You'll have to see it to believe it. You've never seen him act in a scene. He's really talented in acting, Jennifer said seriously. As an actor, he is an absolute gem of a man. To women, whether or not a man is considered a gem by others is not important. The important thing for her is that he treats her well. Winnie smiled and nodded. I discussed last night's situation with April. She'll clear up the misunderstanding on your behalf. As celebrities, there's no way we can avoid being involved in rumors. But I think it's important that we clear up all misunderstandings. Mr. Richard might be angry at first, but he's a forgiving person. He'll forget about it eventually. I need to go now, but if there's anything you need help with, feel free to look me up. Thank you. Heading towards the door, Winnie thought for a moment before adding, I don't know if you realize it, but I think you should keep a distance from Leonard. You mean about him liking me? Jennifer had hit the bullseye. She paused, contemplating for a bit before continuing. He confessed to me last night. Winnie was surprised. She did not expect Jennifer to confide in her. We might have had too much to drink last night. We were all in a good mood because of the box office results, but I rejected him and told him that we would only stay as co-workers in the future. But there are still ongoing promotions for our current movie, and since both of us are also the main leads, Jennifer shrugged weakly. I understand. I'll leave now. Winnie nodded seriously. She felt helpless too. Leonard was a top actor, the man of many people's dreams. Although 38 years old, he was quite a good match for Jennifer. Unfortunately, she already had a boyfriend. It was not a good thing to intervene in someone else's relationship. While waiting for the elevator, Winnie checked the time. It was 10:30. Since she was already out, she thought that she might as well head to the restaurant to buy some breakfast before heading back. Just as she was about to leave after getting her food, she met Ben's manager. She greeted him as he stopped in front of her, looking serious. Miss Winnie, may I have a word with you? Winnie wondered. If it's about Ben... Please tell Jeffrey to stop provoking him. When the production team split both of you up to promote the movie separately, Ben was relieved. He sighed. You were always in his heart, but he probably felt that he wasn't right for you. That's why he only wanted to stay as friends. When both of you met in Venice, he simply wanted to talk to you as a friend. He was also very careful to avoid showing too much concern for you. Last night, when he wanted to give you an apple, he even went and gave everyone else one too. He tried his best to contain his feelings, and yet Jeffrey continued to provoke him. His feelings had already been hurt before. Although he may look glamorous on the outside, on the inside, he's a real softie. I don't know what he saw last night, but he came to the room. He downed 5 bottles of red wine and was almost sent to the hospital for gastric pain. He fixed his gaze on her. Winnie looked at him in shock. He might have betrayed you in the past, but that was indeed his mistake, and he did that in hopes of giving you a better future. His manager sighed. The only thing I'm afraid of now is that he would get pushed to the edge and down the wrong path." "What do you mean?" Winnie didn't quite understand him, or rather, she did not dare to read any deeper into his words. He fixed his gaze on her. "Have you ever had suicidal thoughts at night?" "There was once when he picked up a knife in the middle of the night and slit his wrist. Good thing I was keeping a close watch on him and he was saved." Winnie gasped. "The whole thing was caught on camera by the paparazzi, and we spent a huge amount of money to keep it under wraps." Ben's manager laughed bitterly. "We usually only see the glamorous side of Ben, but deep inside, he's just like a piece of glass. It shatters when touched. Others might not understand him, but don't you know him better? For the past half year, I arranged for him to see a psychologist, but he just can't get over the wall in his heart. That evil woman ruined him." Upon mentioning that woman, a shiver ran down Winnie's spine. "How is she now?" "She is, of course, having a wonderful time," he said sarcastically. "When Ben was with her, he was introduced to some of her businesses. But after that, she quickly moved them out of the country. The little evidence that we managed to get wasn't enough to convict her. Besides, she's not from America. I'm afraid that he might finish her off himself. If death does not scare a person, there is nothing he is afraid of." Winnie's eyes widened in astonishment. After all, Ben was her first love and her high school friend. She would hate to see him go that far. "If it's possible, I hope you can persuade him personally," he asked sincerely. Winnie bit down on her lips. Her eyebrows furrowed indecisively. With some hesitation, she said, "If I meet him next time, I will persuade him. But to ask him out privately, I'm sorry, I don't want Jeffrey to misunderstand." "All right then, I won't force it on you. Please just tell Jeffrey to stop provoking him." It took a while before Winnie could regain her composure and head back to her room. Her mind wandered off as she walked towards her room. Upon opening the door with her room card, she noticed that the bed was empty and Jeffrey was gone. After a quick look around the room, she went for her phone. She heard a knock on the door. Opening the door, Jeffrey stood outside, looking grave. "Why weren't you sleeping in?" Winnie yanked him in, afraid of any paparazzi lurking in the corridor. "Where did you go?" "I went to Jennifer's place to look for you since you were gone for so long, but she said you left a long time ago." Jeffrey threw her a glance. "I went to buy breakfast." Winnie pointed to the spread on the table. "They're freshly made. I was waiting in line for quite some time to get these. Have you washed up? Come on and eat then. There are so many types of food here, so I bought a lot for breakfast." Jeffrey sat on the chair expressionlessly, popping a shrimp into his mouth. The shrimp was fresh and delicious. He glanced up, noticing that Winnie had also picked up a shrimp, but she looked preoccupied with other things on her mind. His mood turned sour. Picking the shrimp from her fork, he stuffed it into his mouth. "What are you doing?" Winnie stared at him, speechless. "I should be the one asking you." Jeffrey frowned deeply. "Did you only go to the restaurant to buy breakfast for me?" Winnie might be dense, but at that moment, she could sense that something was amiss. "When I was on my way back, I met Ben's manager and had a few words with him." Seeing that she did not hide the meeting from him, Jeffrey eased up. "The both of you seem to be chatting for a long time. Since when were you so familiar with that man?" Winnie immediately understood why Jeffrey was upset. He saw her talking with Ben's manager before. Was he testing her on purpose by not telling her that? Her heart sank all of a sudden. "So, you don't trust me once again." Jeffrey was losing his patience. "I just want to know the reason why." "Fine, I'll tell you. Winnie said. He only came to tell me that, since I'm with you now, I should talk you out of always starting fights with Ben. Ben knew in his heart that he and I were over. If he believes that you guys are over, then he will ignore my provocations. Went out of his way to send his manager to talk to you? I don't think he's over you at all, Jeffrey said with a stone-cold tone. He did not go out of his way to send his manager. We bumped into each other and had a casual chat. Winnie took a sip of the coffee. She did not wish to drag the topic on with Jeffrey. Jeffrey frowned. As Winnie had stopped talking, he finished his breakfast alone. It was quite tasty before, but after all that, it tasted as bland as paper. Jeffrey had only taken a few bites. He then went over to the bed to take a nap. Winnie took her phone out to read Jennifer's news. Both Jennifer and Leonard were big names. Things had escalated much faster than her incident before. Many malicious comments were posted. Many influencers added fuel to the fire as well. About 10 minutes before, Jennifer made a statement on her account. Last night, we all drank a little bit more than we could handle. Some were completely drunk. Leonard walked me to my car and my assistant was helping me out as well. Why is there only me and him in that photo? When we went back to my hotel, my assistant was just behind us. And there was only me and Leo again. Just so you know, my assistant is a girl, so she could not hold me up when I was so drunk. Leonard left after he put me down. Didn't you get that photo? Not long after the post, Leonard retweeted the post with a few words. It's too easy to start a rumor. Within 3 minutes, Ben retweeted as well to show his support. Winnie liked all the posts. She even liked Ben's post by accident. Winnie looked at the man sleeping on the bed. Her heart almost lost a beat. She had liked the post. What would people say if she removed the like? They would think that she was trying to start a media hype, or the two were not over yet. It would cause trouble either way. Maybe it was best to just let it be and be honest about it. She retweeted Jennifer's post and wrote, We had a bite together last night. I saw Jennifer's assistant there when we called it a night. Jennifer is a selfless, honest spirit, and Leonard is a big brother who always looks out for others. Can't imagine that someone would twist the facts and make a story out of this. Soon after she posted, thousands commented below. Many said that Winnie valued her relationships with her friends, and others believed that she was in this together with Jennifer, as Ben, Jeffrey, and Winnie's names were always on the news. Of course, Ben liked her post not too long after as well. Winnie had butterflies in her stomach. She patted the man under the covers and said, We're all supporting Jennifer. Join us. Jeffrey squinted his eyes, looked at Winnie and said, We? You and who else? Just the cast, Winnie cleared her throat. Ben and Leonard retweeted as well. I liked their post. Winnie, how dare you like Ben's post? Jeffrey threw back the covers and sat up straight. His voice was deafening to Winnie's ears. But I liked everyone's post. It would seem weird if I did not like his. Winnie explained. People might say that I'm not over him yet. Retweet now and I'll like yours as well. Jeffrey sat cross-legged on the bed and staring at Winnie in anger. You don't think I'm right? Asked Winnie, crossing her arms. Then I'll remove the likes now. Go ahead. You'll be on the headlines instead of Jennifer in no time. Jeffrey talked back without hesitation. Winnie's eyes sparkled. She then said, You're right. I can help Jennifer if I create a distraction. I'll go to remove the... Winnie stood up as she spoke, but Jeffrey pulled her into his arms all of a sudden. Jeffrey said to her with determination, No, if you really want to help her, I think it's better for us to go public. Winnie blinked her eyes and said, You're not as big as a celebrity like Ben. Jeffrey lost his words. He felt like a roaring fire, and Winnie was playing with fire. Winnie? Jeffrey's lips shivered. His voice seemed to come from the back of his teeth. I'm just teasing you, Winnie burst into laughter. She fell into his arms, caressed his face, gave him some kisses, and said, "If I post that kind of message out of the blue, my mom and dad would be furious. I need to take you home and get their blessing first." "What if your parents don't agree with you?" Jeffrey melted as Winnie touched him. "A smart guy like you can figure out a way." Winnie rested her head on her hands, smiled, and said, "If you can't handle your future mother-in-law and father-in-law, there's nothing I can do." Winnie spread her hands as she finished the sentence. Jeffrey pinched her adorable cheeks, smiled, and said, "You're leaving me to deal with all this alone. If it's lacking the dramas, shouldn't you say that, with or without their approval, you'll be with me till death do us part?" "Well, you were the one who was mad at me before, and you were hard on me," Winnie said calmly. "What kind of person are you? You called me baby before we went to bed, and then yelled at me after you put your pants back on." "I did not yell at you. I was just jealous." Jeffrey clenched his fist and cleared his throat. "Winnie, after what happened before, even though we have a child, I am still scared that you might leave me for Ben. Promise me, keep your distance from him. I would feel insecure if you don't." "I promise you I won't leave you," Winnie raised her hand and said. "I swear that if I still have feelings for Ben, I will get hit by—" Jeffrey put his hands over her mouth before Winnie could finish her words. Jeffrey covered Winnie's mouth. "Stop it." Jeffrey stopped her with a stern look. He looked down and said, "If you have feelings for him again someday, I would hate you to my core, but I still would wish you a happy life." Winnie felt like she was about to tear up. She wrapped her arms around Jeffrey's neck and said, "I won't. We'll be fine. I love you." "Say it one more time." Jeffrey raised his head with his eyes twinkling. "I love you," Winnie nibbled his ear and whispered to him. Jeffrey turned around and pinned her down onto the bed. There was a fire in his eyes. "Will you ever yell at me again?" Winnie asked as she blinked her eyes. "No more yelling." Jeffrey's heart melted. "I'll go like your post and retweet Jennifer's post now." "Okay," Winnie nodded. She suddenly found the 3 words, "I love you," to be such amazing words. They could turn a man who was always harsh and mean to others, like Jeffrey, into someone gentle and obedient. Jeffrey sat up immediately to get his phone and retweeted the post. He was a little bit upset. Ben always got to retweet faster than anyone else. That happened the last time with Winnie as well. After Jeffrey retweeted, he liked everyone's post as well. Of course, everyone but Ben. The two woke up from their nap at 3 in the afternoon. Winnie found out to her surprise that Winnie likes Ben's post, Jeffrey did not like Ben's post, and Jeffrey and Ben are frenemies, trending topics on social media. Winnie also read some of the comments underneath. Some believed that she could not get over Ben and they would probably get back together in no time. Others commented that Jeffrey was not on good terms with Ben because he had feelings for her. Oddly enough, a small group of people said that Jeffrey and Ben looked great together. They dug up a photo of the two standing together, promoting a new show. Some even wrote fan fiction about the two. Winnie took some time to have a good read and she enjoyed herself. "What are you reading there?" Jeffrey took her phone without asking. His face darkened as he saw the fan fiction on the screen. "What the heck is this? It says Ben pinned me down." The corners of Winnie's mouth twitched. "Well, I believe that you are at the bottom of that story," she said. Jeffrey gave Winnie a menacing glare. Winnie laughed out loud. "Don't be mad. There are so many girls today who enjoy a little bromance." "I'll have someone delete that. There's no way this can get out." Jeffrey called his personal assistant immediately and asked him to take down the post. They took a shower together after the post was deleted. When they got out of the shower, Peril invited Winnie to a video call. Winnie took the call after she asked Jeffrey to stand back. Peril was holding Jenny in her arms on screen. When Jenny saw her mother, she grabbed the phone, babbling. "Jenny, did you miss Mommy?" One after the other, they could not blow each other enough kisses. Jeffrey couldn't help but sneak behind the chair to have a look. His heart melted when he saw Jenny. His baby was so adorable, far more adorable than the photos. Peril asked on the phone directly, "Winnie, I was looking at my phone earlier. Why are you on the news with Ben? And that Jeffrey again? I told you so many times, especially about Ben. You need to stay as far away from him as possible. And you still liked his post. Are you trying to get your dad mad at you? He said if you ever got back together with Ben, he would break your legs." Jeffrey nodded in agreement. His mother-in-law and father-in-law turned out to be a great help. "Mom, don't believe anything on the internet." When he had no choice but to laugh at it. "Fine, but no more talk about Ben. What about Jeffrey?" Peril's tone changed immediately. "I read his profile online just now. He's got some talent, but he's too young. Good-looking men like these are always immature. I can tell from his looks that he's a playboy." Jeffrey sheepishly grabbed Winnie's clothes behind her with confusion and doubt. She did not know whether to laugh or cry. "Right," Peril continued. "Do you still remember our neighbor's son? He came back from overseas and he is a big deal now. He was offered a position as a professor in the Provincial School of Fine Arts. I met him once not too long ago. He has good features and is mature and down to earth. Remember how you used to hang out a lot with him? You went swimming together as well." "Mom." Winnie felt that the back part of her clothes was going to become rags. She had to change the topic. "Right, I went off topic. I'll get to the point now." Peril seemed to get the message. "Come back for New Year's, meet him, and have dinner with him. It's all for your own good. He's a good man. I hope you can get married someday." "Well, Mom, I need to go." Winnie ended the call immediately. She turned around and said to the man behind, "You promised me just now no yelling." Jeffrey had to unwillingly swallow his pride and anger. "Winnie, you have quite the history. Went swimming with some guy when you were younger, and you ran away with your schoolmate when you're older?" "That was when I was 5 or 6. We went for a swim together in a river in the village. A lot of my friends were there," Winnie explained helplessly. "Do you really need to be jealous of that? You never swam in the pool with some girl?" Jeffrey couldn't find the answer to that right away. After quite a while, he said, "Your parents set up a date for you." "I won't go because I'm taking you home this New Year." Winnie smiled as she put her arms around Jeffrey's neck. Jeffrey felt that he couldn't be mad at her anymore. "Winnie, don't worry. I'll make sure that your parents like me. I'll do whatever they ask." "What if they ask you to get out?" "I will get out of that situation." Winnie kept quiet. The two flirted for some time until Morris called Jeffrey and told him that he was at the parking lot. Jeffrey and Winnie went downstairs and saw a black Lamborghini parked just outside the elevator. The car window rolled down, revealing a young man sitting inside. He had a prominent nose and thin lips. His eyes were looking up, charming and enchanting. He looked like a bad boy. Morris got out of the car immediately when he saw the two. He opened the passenger door and said, "Please, my lady." Winnie froze a bit. She smiled and was just about to say something when Jeffrey gave Morris a cold glare. "Do not call her that ever again. That is my pet name for her only." Morris was speechless. Winnie blushed. How could he calmly tell others his pet name for her? My bad," Morris got the message and said, "Sister, please." "Thank you." Winnie bent down and got into the car quickly as she was embarrassed. There was a slight twinkle in Morris's eye. He patted Jeffrey on the shoulder and murmured, "She looks even prettier in person than in the photos. No wonder she could take on someone like you." "Don't pat me on the shoulder. I have a girlfriend now. Don't touch me there." Jeffrey moved Morris's hand away and sat next to Winnie. Morris stood there staring at his hand hanging in midair. The corners of his mouth twitched. After Jeffrey got into the car, he introduced Morris immediately. This is my friend, Morris Lewis. He was studying overseas before and he came back recently for the holidays. His dad sent him here to do some business. I wasn't going to see him. After all, it's Christmas and I just want to spend it with you. But he keeps sending me messages and giving me calls, so I have to meet up with him. Winnie fell silent. She had no idea how to reply to that. She looked sympathetically at Morris, who was sitting in the front seat, and said, Nice to meet you. You know what? It's Christmas. The more the merrier. Also, you were the first friend Jeffrey officially introduced to me. I know. He doesn't have many real friends, Morris answered, smiling. Jeffrey kept quiet. Winnie thought the same. Jeffrey grabbed Winnie's arm gently and said in a low voice, That's because I have a girlfriend. You? Why do I still need friends? It's a waste of my time and life. And we go out sometimes for meals. That's definitely a waste of money. A cold shiver ran down Morris's spine, and he felt a bit sick. Was this sickeningly sweet man the same Jeffrey he had known before? Winnie said, At least be nice to your friends. Morris chuckled. It's all right, Winnie. I've seen him at his worst. It was my first year of high school when I first met him. He was pinching and scraping his way through. He would only have a bread roll and a cup of warm water for breakfast, one pair of shoes for the entire semester, and only 2 sets of clothes. He was the poorest boy in our school, but with the best grades. Winnie was surprised when she heard that. What about her days in high school? The housemaid would prepare boiled eggs and milk for her every day. Moreover, if she requested, the housemaid would make whatever she wished. She bought herself many pretty clothes as well. Jeffrey's old life made her heart ache. You had a rough time before you got back to the family? Winnie asked softly. But I heard a well-known director took you in and mentored you since high school. I had a part-time job back then, but I couldn't spend all my money just because I was making some. You couldn't make more if you didn't save up. Also, the tuition fee wasn't exactly cheap. Jeffrey was not uncomfortable talking about his past. It was all right to be broke back then. Yes, I did only have 2 sets of clothes, but I was confident that I would look great in anything. I did not care much about my looks. It's not like I was trying to get a girlfriend. Winnie respected Jeffrey for that. She never thought about making more money with the money she had when she was about the same age. Maybe it had to do with the environment a person was in? He's not wrong, Morris chuckled. Because of his looks, there were so many girls who had their eyes on him in school. There was one time a girl wanted to date him. Do you know what he said? He said, Why would I date you? It's just a waste of money. That girl then said that she would pay for everything if he could be with her. And he said to her that he didn't want a sugar mommy, and he walked off with his head held high. Winnie rubbed her fingers on Jeffrey's palm with a big smile on her face. Being with me is a waste of money as well. I would waste all the money in the world for you. Jeffrey kissed Winnie on her cheek. Morris cleared his throat and said, Right. Watch yourselves. I am still here. No one sees you anyway, Jeffrey said with no emotion. Morris was speechless. He thumped the steering wheel, upset, and mumbled, Jeffrey, we have not seen each other for almost a year. Do you have to be so heartless? Jeffrey answered without blinking. You're not my girlfriend. Why should I put my heart out for you? Don't you agree, Winnie? Winnie sighed helplessly. Thank God she was Jeffrey's girlfriend. They drove on. Because of Winnie's popularity, public places did not seem appropriate for the three. Morris then took the couple directly to a bowling alley. Winnie did not have much experience with bowling, so she had to try and was enjoying herself. In the meantime, Morris and Jeffrey were sitting on the couch, drinking coffee and talking about investments. Winnie was shocked. She thought Jeffrey was only good at making movies. Also, Morris seemed to be around the same age as Jeffrey, but he definitely knew his stuff when it came to investments. You want to invest in the esports industry? Winnie walked over to Jeffrey and asked softly. I don't feel confident about that industry. It's just a bunch of children playing video games. Jeffrey pulled her onto his lap and said, You don't know much about that. Morris was studying overseas. The esports industry is thriving overseas right now. It's gaining attention inside the country as well. He's planning to invite leading esports companies from Korea, Japan, and other countries. Start esports competitions and attract sponsors. It's an industry with huge profits. Morris smiled. Winnie, do you know how Jeffrey and I became friends? I made a little game when I was studying in Europe. My dad got mad at me and said that I was just fooling around. Jeffrey found out about it. He ran directly to me and said he wanted to work with me. He would pay me to develop the game. And I thought, how could someone as poor as you have any money for investment? But then he ended up investing $1 million, and I was almost shocked to death. The game then went on to become one of the best sellers in Europe. We made a huge amount of money, and I started to see him in a different light. Winnie was stunned. She had just realized that she did not know much about Jeffrey. As the old saying goes, to know a man is to know his past. Jeffrey explained. I was all about making money at that time. Many times I saw him developing his game as I went to the computer lab. So I had my eye on him. After observing him for a while, I knew he had the talent. Otherwise, I would have never talked to him. Morris was glad to hear Jeffrey's words, but his smug face soon disappeared. Hey, that's a bit harsh. Winnie laughed out loud and asked with curiosity, So, how did you get that $1 million? Jeffrey paused for a while and then answered, Part-time jobs and saving as much money as I could. Morris quickly added, He had 3 jobs and only slept for 5 hours a day. Winnie felt tears at the back of her eyes. She promised herself that she would treat Jeffrey better from then on. After bowling, the 3 went out for Cantonese food. Dinner was finished. Morris rented the room, paid the bill, and left. After all, it was Christmas. He did not want to be a third wheel. Once Morris left, Jeffrey crossed his arms with displeasure. Why did you friend him on social media? To know more about you, when he glanced at Jeffrey. I feel that he is a friend who truly understands you. He's seen you at your worst and at your best. Others, like Austin, may hang out with you quite often, but they do not know your past. Jeffrey froze for a bit, but he believed Winnie was right about that. He then asked, Is my past that important? You just need to know my present and my future. If you truly like someone, you would want to know his past, present, and future, Winnie said. She took Jeffrey's arm and smiled. Jeffrey's heart raced and he could almost hear his own heartbeat. He looked at the woman next to him with mixed feelings. Winnie, it's Christmas today. We should have the day to ourselves, but I asked you to come out to meet with my friend. It's all right. I am a public figure, so I couldn't go to public places anyway. Winnie's eyes fell on the street where the endless cars came and went. The traffic was particularly heavy as it was Christmas. There was a huge traffic jam. Well, let's go get some milk tea. I haven't had any in forever, Winnie said. Jeffrey was lost in his thoughts for a few seconds. He remembered that he and Winnie loved having milk tea near the school. Jeffrey smiled and nodded. They spent some quality time together. Not long after Christmas, it was almost New Year. World's Top Singer was going well. Winnie was eliminated in the 10th episode. At the end of the day, she was too young to be in the competition. When Winnie left, she said goodbye to the show and the audience with tears in her eyes. Jeffrey watched that episode in the living room when it was on the air. Melissa felt sorry for Winnie and said, I won't watch this show if Winnie's not in it anymore. Kenneth was puzzled. Since when did you become so close with Winnie? Melissa glared at Kenneth. She then turned around to have a look at her son. Jeffrey was chatting with someone online. What are you doing there, son? Melissa asked. She walked to Jeffrey and she saw on his screen, There, baby. Jeffrey covered his screen quickly, turned around, and gave Melissa a stern glare. "Don't disturb me when I'm chatting." Melissa shivered and felt a bit sick. Was this the same cold, distant son of hers? Kenneth felt the two were about to get into a fight, so he jumped right in. "Your mom said she wants to visit her dad in Luxembourg this new year. How about we go on a trip to Europe? A lot of people are spending the new year overseas now." Just the thought of the three of them spending the new year together made Kenneth incredibly happy. An old man's wish was to be with his family. In the past, Kenneth could only hope for such a reunion when he saw other families get together. Things had changed at that moment as he was with his family right there and then. "I'm not going. You two can go together," Jeffrey said calmly. Kenneth's face hardened as if someone had just thrown cold water at his face. "Son, Jeffrey, are you still mad at me? I really wanted to have you before." "It's not that." Jeffrey stopped Kenneth right away as soon as he realized that the old man was about to start the same old speech over again. "I've got something going on." "Nothing's more important than being with your family," Kenneth tried to persuade his son. "It's not like you're spending New Year's with your in-laws like your sister." "Well, it's exactly that. I am spending this new year at my girlfriend's house." Jeffrey stood up and announced. "So you guys can spend it together." Although Melissa was kind of expecting that, she was still shocked that Jeffrey was going to have New Year's dinner with their family. Kenneth jumped out of the chair, surprised. "You have a girlfriend? Why didn't I hear anything when I was teaching in school? Who is it?" "I don't think it's a good idea, having New Year's dinner with their family while you're still in school. At least wait until you're a bit older. And also, you could bring her to our house so your mom and I can meet her first." Melissa nodded. She had known about it for a long time anyway. She just didn't tell anyone. "You are not important. What's important is for her parents to approve of us," Jeffrey said with no emotion. Melissa stayed silent. Kenneth felt a little hurt. "Why aren't we important? We are your parents. We need to be in the decision of who you will spend the rest of your life with. If she isn't a good girl, your mother and I will not approve." "You will approve. She's a wonderful girl. Smart, nice to her parents, beautiful, kind, good at cooking, good at studying, and very capable. She's simply the perfect girl. You can spend this new year yourselves. I'll bring her to our house sometime next year and discuss the wedding. I'm not planning on throwing an engagement party. You guys have fun." Finishing his speech, Jeffrey waved at them and went straight upstairs. Melissa and Kenneth were stunned for quite a while until they finally processed what Jeffrey had just said. Kenneth stuttered. "Mel, what did he just say? Getting married next year?" "Yes, that's what he said." Melissa frowned as she was also shocked by her son's decision. "But he's only 23 next year. Are boys getting married at such a young age now?" Kenneth could not believe his ears. "I thought boys who grew up overseas wanted to be free a lot longer. I asked him last year, and he said that he's never getting married. This girl must be something. She's got his head in the clouds. I'm worried." "Don't worry. He's a grown man." Melissa tried to calm Kenneth. "There's no way to stop him anyway. Just sit back and prepare to have a daughter-in-law." Kenneth was speechless. Some time had passed since then. On the 29th, Jeffrey was busy packing his luggage. He could not go to his girlfriend's house empty-handed when meeting his future in-laws. He must bring along some gifts for them, even more so for his daughter. Jeffrey filled 3 suitcases full. Just as he was about to leave, Melissa could not help but speak her mind. "You've prepared quite a lot. I've never seen you being so nice to me, though." Jeffrey thought for a while before answering. "I'll find a wife who will be good to you." "What if she isn't respectful to her elders?" Melissa was satisfied with his reply, but she couldn't help but feel a little jealous. "She will be. The woman I'm marrying won't be anything less than perfect," said Jeffrey as he carried his stuff to the car. It was troublesome to take a flight together with Winnie, especially since they had a lot of luggage. He went on his way. He drove over to pick up Winnie. She was wearing a white knitted sweater and jeans, with a face mask covering her face as she stood below her apartment waiting for him. Only her eyes could be seen, and she had 2 large suitcases next to her. She was tall and had a slender figure. Nothing too sexy, but she looked innocent like a college freshman. Jeffrey parked his car and opened the trunk. There wasn't much space left for her luggage, so they had to put them in the back seat. "You didn't have to bring so many gifts for my parents. We have everything at home." Winnie didn't expect him to bring so much along with him, and she was a little taken aback. "I bought plenty of stuff for them when I went overseas a couple of days ago." "It's not nice to turn up empty-handed. I bought tonics and health supplements as well as toys for Jenny." Jeffrey smiled. "I bought a lot of toy cars, even some Transformers ones. Do you think she'll like them?" Winnie kept quiet. She tried hard not to laugh as she reminded him. "Just in case you forgot, Jenny is a girl." "I know, but don't girls like Transformers?" Jeffrey asked, confused. "I really liked them, but I couldn't afford to buy them when I was younger." Winnie was speechless. She had to empathize with him. It was his unfulfilled childhood dream after all. When she got into the car, she removed her mask and Jeffrey immediately leaned in for a kiss. After a quick peck, he looked at her and asked, "Are you sad because of the competition?" "Nope, I'm happy that I was in the top 10. I didn't have high hopes anyway." Winnie laughed. "I feel relieved, to be honest. It was so stressful and exhausting being in that competition. I just want to take a break for a couple of days and prepare for my tour. Oh, right. For New Year, should I pay a visit to your parents as well?" She felt a little nervous asking him. She wondered how shocked they would be if they found out that she was Jeffrey's girlfriend. "You're not embarrassed now?" Jeffrey grinned. "It's only a matter of time. Of course, you have to win my parents' approval first." When he looked at him with amusement. "They don't acknowledge you? There's nothing I can do. I listen to whatever they say." "Winnie, that's not what we agreed on," Jeffrey said with a frozen look on his face. "I've already hurt my parents' feelings twice. How could you ask me to hurt them again?" Winnie asked him back. Jeffrey was speechless. After gathering his thoughts, he replied, "My parents are going to Europe to spend the New Year. I'll bring you to see them when they're available again." "Is this the first time you're spending the holidays away from your mother? Did they say anything?" Winnie felt a little apologetic. All parents would want to spend the festive occasion with their children. "Yeah, I told them that I would bring my wife home next year to accompany them." Jeffrey grinned. "What do you say?" Winnie glared at him with embarrassment before giving him the cold shoulder. "Be good, all right? I bought this for you," Jeffrey said, taking out a carton of strawberry milk and handing it over to her. Winnie took a few sips. The taste of the sweet strawberry filled her mouth. It was the same as before. There was always good food around with him. The drive to her house was 8 hours, and given that it was the peak hour as everyone else made their way home, they took their time on the road. In the afternoon, Winnie received a call from Kendrick. "What time's your flight? Do you need me to pick you up from the airport?" "There's no need. I'm getting someone to drive me back," said Winnie as she glanced over at the man next to her. "Driving from Rosewood City could take quite a while. Who are you with? Are they dropping you off at our place? We're spending New Year's at the old villa," Kendrick reminded her. "I know. I'll probably arrive at night," Winnie replied sheepishly. They continued their journey amid the traffic. Back in Winnie's family home, Kendrick turned and told Peril about it. Kendrick was sitting on a small stool with his head lowered, concentrating on his garlic peeling. He raised his head and asked, "Do you think she's coming home in her boyfriend's car?" "Don't talk nonsense." Peril glared at him. "I've never heard anything about a boyfriend." Kendrick said casually, "If she dares brings a man back home, I will break his legs." Joshua's eyes sparkled with excitement. He was willing to bet his 50-cent jerkies on his sister bringing a man home. At 9 o'clock, the family was watching television in the living room when the maid rushed in from outside. "Winnie is home." "Yeah, we know. She told us.
What's all the fuss about? Kendrick stood up immediately and stopped smiling. Where is she? Why hasn't she come in yet? Does she have a lot of stuff with her? Did you help her with her stuff?
The maid looked at his expression and said timidly, I don't think she'll need my help. She came home in a man's car. He said that he was her boyfriend and I didn't dare to let his car in. I wanted to come in and tell you first. Before she could finish, Kendrick slammed the table with his palm. Joshua nearly swallowed the pit of the plum he was eating. Rubbish! Kendrick said furiously. She brought a baby home last year and she's bringing a man home this year? Does she want to drive me to my grave? After his rant, he grabbed the old lady's cane and stalked out of the living room angrily. Hey, Kendrick, calm down! Peril chased after him quickly. Joshua was hot on his tail as well with his short legs.
Finally, I feel like I'm peaking in life.
Meanwhile, Jeffrey and Winnie had just parked outside. Jeffrey was exhausted after driving the entire day. When they finally arrived at Winnie's house, he still wasn't let in. His back ached and his bones were sore. Half a minute later, a middle-aged man barged out of the house angrily, charging at them. He was holding a cane in one hand and shaking it angrily. He shouted, Are you Winnie's boyfriend? Well, I don't know you, so I won't beat you. Winnie, get out of the car now. I'm going to beat you to death. Have you forgotten what you promised me last year? Are you trying to kill me? Why do you keep doing this to me? Jeffrey was shocked. Although he expected Winnie's father to be a tough nut to crack, he didn't expect him to be so ferocious. He didn't know that he would threaten to beat them up before they even went in. He quickly went up and stopped Kendrick. Sir, let's talk things over calmly. Winnie is young, pretty, and single. It's normal for someone like her to find a boyfriend. A lot of girls her age are married unless they can't find a good man. When has she ever found herself a good boyfriend? Kendrick looked disappointed and angry. She only finds men who are good-looking or good with their words. She'll never find herself a good man. Jeffrey was speechless. Winnie must seem extremely unreliable in front of her parents. Now he had to bear the brunt of her mistakes. Well, I'm a decent boyfriend. I don't think so, Kendrick smirked. You look about the same age as my daughter and you're driving a sports car with your hair styled and all. You're obviously one of those rich kids who squander their father's wealth, and I'm guessing you're a playboy as well. No, I'm a director, Jeffrey replied with a stiff upper lip. He couldn't believe that the man had just compared him to a sleazy playboy. Yes, he was handsome and good-looking, but that comparison was an insult. Oh, director! Kendrick nodded his head mockingly. You're the kind of director who sleeps with the female actresses and exploits them with your status and power, right? I've read plenty of articles on men like you. Jeffrey's mouth twitched. He detested people who tarnished the reputation of his profession. I'm not one of those. I'm a genuine, decent man. Hubby, isn't he the one who got into the scandal with our daughter in Venice? Jeffrey? Peril spoke up after staring at him for quite some time. Oh, I remember now. No wonder you look familiar. You're that little brat. Kendrick was even more furious now. Aren't you younger than my daughter? He couldn't be bothered to look at Jeffrey anymore. He shouted at Winnie, who was still in the car. Come out now. Look at you. You've gotten even bolder now, dating someone younger than yourself. When are you going to call it quits? When you see your mother and me 6 feet under? Winnie got out of the car reluctantly as her father walked over to her with big strides. Jeffrey quickly pulled her behind him, shielding her. Sir, let's talk things through calmly. We can have a civilized chat. I'm here to give my New Year greetings. Ma'am, talk to him, please. Just hear us out. Listen to our story. What greetings? My blood pressure is so damn high right now, I'm about to go to the hospital. Kendrick shot back, exasperated. All right.
Peril interrupted them.
She was in a foul mood as well, but standing there and shouting at each other wouldn't have solved anything. Cut it out! All our neighbors are back for the new year. We look like a huge joke right now. Let's talk inside. Drive your car in. Although Kendrick was furious, he still cared about his reputation. He inhaled sharply, then proceeded to walk back to the villa. Jeffrey was worried that Kendrick would hit Winnie, so he quickly dragged her back to the car as they drove closer to the house. After he had parked the car, he frowned and said to Winnie, "You never told me how fierce your dad was." Winnie lowered her head in silence. Jeffrey said helplessly, "It's okay. I understand. You must seem extremely unreliable in front of your dad because of what happened with Ben. You had a good time back then, but you're leaving me in such a difficult situation right now. Your father thinks of me as a despicable animal, even though I'm nothing but a gentleman." "Well, aren't you an animal?" Winnie rebuked him indignantly. "Why else would you drag me to the bedroom every time we meet? Besides, I would never have gotten pregnant if it wasn't for you." Jeffrey grinned. "That's true. My sperms are too strong. Bullseye the first time round without even trying." Winnie kept quiet. She finally burst into laughter. "If my dad asked why Jenny is your child, you better answer him that way." It was now Jeffrey's turn to be awkwardly silent. If he said that, he might get beaten to death by Kendrick. When he got out, Jeffrey unloaded all their luggage from the back of the car. He was inexperienced when it came to visiting his future in-laws. He had been analyzing how Aaron managed to win Melissa over so quickly in the past, and he had concluded that it was because he had really thick skin and was good at kissing ass. Thick skin was all that Jeffrey had. He wasn't good at sweet-talking. He would do his best, though, for Winnie's sake. "Sir, ma'am, I wasn't quite sure what to buy you, so I only bought some tonics and health supplements. I hope they come in handy." Jeffrey smiled cordially and politely. "I bought lots of goodies and snacks for our ultra-handsome little Joshua over there." Joshua rolled his eyes. He wasn't used to sucking up to him like this. He remembered that he couldn't even be bothered to answer him in the past. "We don't need these things," said Kendrick coldly. There wasn't any warmth in the tone of his voice. "Leave now with all your things. Stop bothering Winnie from now on. Let me give it to you straight. I will not approve of the two of you together. You are way too immature." Jeffrey simply ignored what he had just said and went on with his introduction. "The last box is filled with presents and clothes for Jenny." Kendrick and Peril were stunned. They didn't expect Jeffrey to know that Winnie had a child. However, it wouldn't have been too far-fetched for him to know either, since she had brought him back for the Lunar New Year. She must have expected him to find out sooner or later. "That doesn't mean that we'll accept you even if you have accepted Jenny," Peril said calmly. "Look at how young you are. Boys your age are immature. So how can we trust that you will treat the child well?" "I will treat Jenny well, because I am Jenny's biological father," Jeffrey said enthusiastically. "What?" Kendrick and Peril both gasped. They both stared at Jeffrey before turning to glare at Winnie. "Is it true?" Kendrick pointed his trembling finger at Winnie. Winnie nodded. Peril said, "No wonder he looked strangely familiar the first time I saw his photos. He does look a lot like Jenny." "So what if they look alike?" Kendrick shouted sternly. "Did he take care of Winnie for a single day when she was pregnant? Where was he when Winnie gave birth to Jenny? We were the ones who brought her up. He didn't even pay a single penny for her. He has no right to be Jenny's father. Good. It's good that you're here. I've been holding this grudge against the damn man who impregnated my daughter for far too long. I'm gonna teach you a lesson today." Initially, he'd only wanted to teach Winnie a lesson, but after all that, he couldn't wait to give Jeffrey a long-deserved beating. "Sir?" Jeffrey said as he quickly grabbed a washboard from the back of his car and knelt on it. Kendrick's cane was frozen in midair. "What are you doing?" Winnie was stunned as well. She didn't expect him to pull such a trick. "This is my apology. This is the washboard that has been passed down to every man in my family. Every time my father or my brother-in-law does something wrong, they would kneel on this," Jeffrey said seriously. "You are my elder, and you are Winnie's father. I should be kneeling to show my sincerest apologies. But given the situation, it would be more appropriate for me to be kneeling on this washboard." Joshua rolled his eyes while Winnie was left completely speechless. He was shameless, without a doubt. She did remember his family having a washboard, but it was by no means a family heirloom. The washboard looked old and used. He might have stolen it from Kenneth. Kendrick was held speechless for a moment before continuing his rant.
Stop putting on an act in front of me. I've seen plenty of young people like you, always full of big talk. Sir, you've really misunderstood me,
Jeffrey grimaced.
If I knew that I had a daughter, I would never have let Winnie come back here alone, pregnant. To be honest, I'm also a victim here. I didn't even know when Winnie and I...
He paused and looked over at Joshua. His parents knew what he was referring to.
Sir, ma'am, look. I was Winnie's classmate at university. Last year, we were both at a friend's birthday party, and she had just gotten over her previous relationship. She was in a bad mood, and I had a little too much to drink that night. Somehow, she pounced on me that night, and she disappeared the next morning. I didn't even know who I was with that night,
Jeffrey said as he looked over at Winnie indignantly. Winnie's jaw dropped, and before she could even say anything, Jeffrey continued.
Winnie, tell them. Did I say anything but the truth?
Winnie was unable to respond. He was telling the truth. But how could he make her look like a horny pervert in front of her own parents? Although she was the one who made the first move, he quickly took over and dominated that night.
That was my first time,
Jeffrey continued with his head lowered.
If I knew it was her, I would have taken responsibility. The fact is that I had fallen in love with her long ago. She was my sister's roommate and best friend. My sister knew that she had her heart broken and she asked me to take good care of her. In the beginning, I treated her like a senior, but I slowly fell in love with her, even though I thought that she was in love with Ben. We met again this year in Venice for the film festival, and that's when I realized that I'm not over her. When I found out about our child, I decided to treat both her and our daughter well. I love Winnie very much, and I would very much like to have your blessings.
When he was done, he looked up emotionally at the two elders with his deep-colored eyes and chiseled face. Winnie had no chance to interrupt at all. She had to give it up to him. It was no wonder he was an award-winning director. The plot truly was exceptional. He made up an excellent speech without telling a single lie. Of course, he deftly excluded what didn't serve his narrative, effectively making himself look like a saint whose only sin was being madly in love.
So, Winnie did you wrong then?
Peril asked awkwardly after digesting everything. Winnie did tell her that she slept with someone when she was drunk. The pieces seemed to fit, so whatever he said must have been the truth. After listening to his story, she felt a little ashamed because of her daughter's behavior.
Winnie, come here now and tell me. Is he telling the truth?
Kendrick turned and shouted at Winnie. Winnie winced when her father shouted at her. She didn't know if she should go along with the story or not. It seemed like she had to bear the brunt of this one.
Winnie, you can add whatever you'd like to say.
Jeffrey sighed, magnifying his perceived tolerance and kindness. Winnie couldn't say anything. If she brought up Bella, it would have just made things more complicated and she would have dug a deeper hole for herself.
It's all true,
Winnie said reluctantly, agreeing to the narrative that had been laid out before her.
You!
Kendrick pointed at her with his finger shaking with anger. Winnie's family had been educators and scholars for generations. Everyone had followed suit and held the family name in high esteem. He too had groomed his daughter to be sophisticated, prudent, and dignified at a very young age. But looking at her then, it seemed like everything was for naught. Not only did she elope, but she also had a baby out of wedlock, even daring to pounce on a man. He couldn't understand how he had managed to produce such offspring. Was she really his flesh and blood? I'm sorry, Dad. Winnie hated Jeffrey to the core now. He had just thrown her under the bus. She was so ashamed of making such a rash mistake in the first place. We do love each other now.
Do you like his personality or just his looks?
Kendrick couldn't help but interrupt.
He's younger than you. It won't be easy.
Sir, I'm willing to be with her even if she only likes me for my looks, Jeffrey answered quickly.
I'm thankful for my good looks. They say that women dress up to look good for their men, but I believe it's the same the other way around. I love Winnie. She's brave, loyal, and an all-around wonderful girl. She once said that she was going to wait for Ben, and even though he was cold and distant to her, she still waited for him with devotion. Other girls would have given up a long time ago. Although her heart was in pain when Ben abandoned her, she somehow found the strength to pull herself together, showing her strong and tenacious nature. Besides, she's extremely talented too. I've never met another girl who takes her learning so seriously. Even though she's popular and successful now, she's still trying her best to learn and improve. She's friendly and easy to get along with as well. She's pretty, but humble, and she's able to be true to herself in this entertainment industry that is full of temptations. It's not easy to come across a girl like her.
He said all of that in a single breath. Everyone was stunned as Winnie looked on at him, puzzled. It was no wonder he was good at script writing. His skills were incomparable. Her parents were moved by what he had just said.
You
are right about that. Carol nodded her head, knowing very well about her daughter's flaws. Given the history of her relationships, there wouldn't have been any man who would accept her, but all of her flaws seemed like strengths in his eyes. She was relieved and grateful to hear that as a mother. Kendrick wasn't as fierce as before, but he still said,
"This fella's good at talking, isn't he? Although you say these wonderful things now, how can I be sure that you won't change your mind about my daughter a few years down the line? Besides, you're too young to be a father. You're practically a child yourself. Men mature much later anyway." "I won't," Jeffrey answered confidently. "I was raised by a single parent. My mother was the one who brought me up all by herself. She poured her blood, sweat, and tears into raising me, and I started doing chores and earning money from a young age. I feel for those kids raised by single parents. I made a promise that if I ever had a wife or child in the future, I would never let them suffer, not even for a single day. I want to give my child a complete family. I don't want her to grow up like me."
Winnie couldn't believe what he was saying. Was this the same man that she knew? The cold and venomous Jeffrey? He really should have gone into acting instead. "Oh, really?" Carol looked at him sympathetically. "You don't have a father then?"
"I have one now," Jeffrey explained. "My parents divorced when they were much younger due to a misunderstanding. My mother brought me overseas after that, and when we came back, they got back together again. You must know my father, Kenneth. His court case made headlines everywhere. He was wrongfully sent to prison."
"Oh, so you are Kenneth's son." Kendrick wasn't as harsh on him anymore. They all hated Kenneth in the past, but after he cleared his name, they realized that everything was a misunderstanding. Kenneth was a principal involved in the art scene. His family was also well known as educators.
"Yes, that's right."
Jeffrey noticed that Kendrick's expression had changed, so he quickly added,
"My father is a professor in Rosewood City now."
It was obvious that Kendrick had a good impression of Kenneth.
"Your father went through a lot. Back in the day, he was the principal at the academy," Kendrick remarked. "Yeah," Jeffrey nodded his head. "Thank goodness my dad's a simple man who's easily satisfied. Although his position's a little lower now, he is happy with the current state of things, given how much he has gone through. He is happy that our family has reunited and we're all happy and healthy together. He still doesn't know about Winnie's child. He only knows that I found a girlfriend. He did ask me to bring her home so that we can get married, but I thought it would be better to ask your permission first."
Peril was relieved to know that his family seemed to be okay with everything, and that Jeffrey was treating them with a lot of respect. She inquired, "Sounds like you were planning to get married this year."
"I wish I could marry her right now, but of course I will need your blessing and Winnie's consent. Honestly, I don't want to wait too long because I'm afraid of losing Winnie,"
said Jeffrey as he looked at Winnie lovingly. Winnie was speechless. She had goosebumps all over. Peril looked at her daughter and noticed that she wasn't moved at all. She thought that her daughter must be heartless, either that or she was still not completely over Ben. She felt sympathetic towards Jeffrey. It is humbling to love someone unconditionally. "Well, no matter what, you are still Jenny's father. It's freezing cold outside. Come on in," Peril said. Kendrick nodded his head and grunted.
Come on in.
Jeffrey walked inside with all his luggage. When Winnie tried to help, he said,
I'll do the heavy lifting. Go in and get warm. Don't catch a cold out here.
Winnie let him be since he was so eager to show off. Joshua walked over to Jeffrey and gave him a big thumbs up.
Jeffy, your bootlicking skills are amazing.
He waddled off after that. Jeffrey tried his best not to kick his ass. When he was done bringing in all the luggage, an old lady was sitting in the living room. She looked like she was in her 80s, and Winnie introduced him to her. Granny, this is my boyfriend, Jeffrey.
Oh!
The old lady squinted her eyes to look at Jeffrey.
He looks like a good-looking fella. When did you get a divorce?
Jeffrey kept quiet.
A divorce?
Jeffrey was about to question Winnie about this divorce thing, but she beat him to it. She explained, My grandma's getting old, so she gets a little confused sometimes. She always mistakes me for my cousin. She turned and explained to her grandmother, I am Winnie. Oh, Winnie! Didn't you elope with a man? Granny smiled and held her hands. You're home now. Is this Ben whom your father has talked about? Jeffrey's awkward smile intensified. He had a feeling that he wouldn't have a pleasant conversation with Granny. Winnie bent down and said to Granny, This is Jeffrey. Oh. Granny grabbed Winnie's hand. You've changed your boyfriend. Good. Your father said that Ben wasn't a reliable guy. It's good that you've come to your senses. Winnie grimaced. Jeffrey had no intention of chatting with Granny as he was eagerly looking at the baby crib in the corner of the room. His darling baby girl was in that crib. He took long strides towards it, but Joshua stopped him in his tracks. Although the little guy was short and small, his back was straight and his chest was puffed out.
You can see Jenny, but let's be clear on one thing. You can't steal our little princess away.
Winnie and Peril got nervous upon hearing that. They did raise Jenny after all. They would be devastated if the child's father wanted to take her away. They wouldn't know if he would take good care of her either, as the child had grown attached to them. Sir, ma'am, please don't misunderstand. I just want to take a look at her, Jeffrey explained. I know that you both have put a lot of love and care into raising her. I don't have the right to take her away just because I'm her father. Although she's young, she must have her own thoughts as well. I'll try to get close to her and win your approval. I know I've done too little. I've talked it over with Winnie, and I think it's fine for the child to keep her surname now. Jenny's a good name, very sophisticated. He even complimented Peril, who named the child, and she was relieved. Kendrick had a pleasant impression of the man, too. Although Jeffrey was young, he had good sense, and the fact that he was willing to keep Jenny's surname spoke volumes of him. Many men were unreasonable about things like that, and Jeffrey seemed a lot more open-minded and generous. We're just worried about the child, Peril said. Although Jenny is small, she's really clingy, especially when she wakes up. She will wail and cry if she's around unfamiliar faces and can't find the people she knows. I can't take it when children cry. Joshua pouted.
Ma, how come you're okay with me crying?
Because you're a big boy now, Peril shot back at him. Joshua sulked. Jeffrey laughed as he cautiously approached the crib. Little Jenny was fast asleep, and her chubby face was pink and rosy. She looked like a baby doll with a serene smile on her face. She must have been dreaming of something good. His heart melted as his hands trembled. That was his daughter. He finally understood Aaron's obsession with having a baby girl. Jenny suddenly opened her eyes and stared at him. Jeffrey was a little taken aback before he said softly, Hi, Jenny. I'm your papa. Jenny blinked her big round eyes and started wailing. Winnie quickly lifted Jenny into her arms. Although it had been a while since she last saw her, they video called often and they were familiar with each other. Connected by a natural bond, Jenny stopped crying instantly in her mother's arms as she sprawled on Winnie's chest. Jeffrey was envious. Winnie, can I carry her? Although Winnie couldn't bear to watch her daughter cry, She still handed her over when Jeffrey looked over at her woefully. Before Jeffrey could even hold her, Ginny burst into tears again. Jeffrey was dejected. "She's scared of strangers. Take it slow," Winnie consoled him. Jeffrey suddenly had an idea. He finished out the gift that he had bought. "Baby, Daddy bought a Transformers toy for you. It can even dance." Ginny looked over at the figurine and yawned, showing no interest whatsoever. Winnie took out the pink doll that she had bought. Ginny's eyes immediately lit up as she grabbed onto the doll's hand and swung it around. She was laughing happily. Jeffrey was frustrated. Joshua walked over to him and stared at the Transformers toy in his hands and said,
Ginny is a baby girl. She doesn't like these things. She likes pink and soft toys. Her hands are small too, so she won't be able to carry that. You can leave all your toys with me. I'll teach her how to play with these when she grows a little older."
Jeffrey was speechless. The kid was a little imp. Peril pinched his ears. "Do you have your eyes on other people's toys now? Didn't I already buy you a lot of toys?"
"Mama, yours aren't as cool as these,"
Joshua said pitifully. Peril said nothing. Jeffrey laughed and said, "It's all right. I must have bought the wrong toys. It's my first time being a father after all. I'm inexperienced. I didn't know that girls only like pink and soft toys. Joshua can have all these instead. Oh, right. I bought toys for Joshua, too." He took the toys out. There was a remote-controlled airplane, robots, and all sorts of cool things. Peril and Kendrick felt bad as they were a bit too harsh to him earlier on. "Why did you buy so many things? What a waste of money," Kendrick said with mixed feelings. "It's okay. I like buying toys for children. I never had these things when I was younger. Even though I have the money now, it doesn't make sense for me to buy these toys for myself. I'm happy to buy these toys for Winnie's little brother. It's almost like fulfilling a childhood dream." Jeffrey looked at Joshua fondly. "Joshua's cute, smart, and intelligent. I quite like him." Joshua shuddered. The guy was so mushy. He wasn't anything like that when they last met first. For the sake of his Transformers figurines, he leaped forward and kissed Jeffrey on the cheek.
"Thank you, big brother."
Jeffrey was made uncomfortable by his gesture. He only wanted to get closer to his own daughter. Peril looked at Jeffrey sympathetically. She was a mother, and she had a soft spot for kids with a tough childhood. Those without a father's love. "It's getting late. You can stay over tonight. We can talk about things tomorrow," she said after a while. "Is it all right if you don't go home for the New Year?" "I told my parents that I'm spending the New Year at my girlfriend's place. They're going to Europe to travel," Jeffrey said. "If you and sir insist on me going home, I'd probably have to spend the holidays by myself. Ma'am, would you please let me stay for New Year's? I can help out around the house. I can do many things. I can even cook. I'm good at cleaning the house, too." Peril was shocked. "You can cook?" "Yeah, you can ask Winnie," Jeffrey laughed. "When we were neighbors, I would make lobster, steamed crabs, and other dishes for her all the time. Dessert, too. I can bake cakes and all. It's my first time here, but I heard that the local cuisine here pays more attention to the natural taste of the ingredients, and that the dishes are fragrant and flavorful. I've been waiting to try it for a long time now." Kendrick nodded his head. "Our local cuisine is tasty." Jeffrey laughed. "This is a good place. Nice people and a good location." Kendrick had grown up immersed in the beauty of the region, against the cultural backdrop of his era. He was glad to hear someone compliment his hometown like that. "You can sleep in the guest room tonight, but you haven't gotten my approval yet. I need to observe you a little more to gauge your actual performance, despite everything that you've said. I don't necessarily have to give you my blessing just because you are Jenny's father. Marriage is forever, and you are both still young and immature. As elders and parents, we have to evaluate things carefully, especially when it comes to Winnie. I really don't trust her taste." "Thank you for giving me a chance, sir." Jeffrey nodded his head. The atmosphere at the family home had finally calmed down. That night, Winnie slept with her daughter while Jeffrey could only watch enviously from afar as the two of them cuddled together. Although he really wanted to sleep with both of them, He knew that he shouldn't push the limits on the first night with her family. He said to Winnie, "Winnie, just call me if Jenny needs to drink milk in the middle of the night. I'll go make it for her. It's cold now. You shouldn't come out." "It's fine," Kendrick interrupted him and said cautiously. "You're young adults. Who knows if you end up staying in the room after going in? Let me tell you straight. I don't care what happened before, but seeing as how you're both still unmarried, you better not try anything funny." "I'm just worried that Winnie will be too tired to feed Jenny, but I'll listen to you, sir," Jeffrey replied respectfully. Back in his room, Jeffrey couldn't fall asleep, even though he had been driving for an entire day. He was physically exhausted, but he wanted to video call Winnie after he showered. Winnie was playing with her daughter on the bed, and Jeffrey could hear Jenny's giggles from across the screen. He desperately wanted to run to the room next door and kiss both mother and daughter on their cheeks. "Winnie, what do you think of my performance tonight?" he asked. Winnie was amused, her face embodying her expression perfectly. "You really went all out with your acting. I can't believe you even brought a washboard along. And you managed to shove all the responsibility onto me? Now in my parents' eyes, I'm the cold-hearted girl who slept with you and ran away." "Winnie, I was telling the truth. You did run away after sleeping with me." Jeffrey grinned. His voice was magnetic. "Or do you want me to tell your father about Ella? About how I was the victim in that story as well?" Winnie kept quiet. "Winnie, you have to understand why your parents took my word for it," Jeffrey said. "Your parents must think that you are a gullible woman who has poor taste in men. I'm just being dragged down by your bad reputation now. I'm just trying my best to make a good impression. I've never sucked up to anyone in my life before, and this is the first time I'm doing it." Winnie smiled as she said, "Although it's your first time, you were so good at it that I think you can be the textbook example now." "Why, thank you. It's all worth it for you," Jeffrey said gently. Winnie was caught off guard. She felt a surge of warmth in her heart. She knew how much effort he was putting in to be with her. "Go to bed now. Sleep well." The night went by peacefully. The next morning, Winnie woke up first. Jenny was still asleep. After washing up, she went out and found her whole family sitting at the table having breakfast. Jeffrey wasn't there sitting with them. There were eggs, French toast, and casserole on the table. "Come on and have a bite," Pearl waved her over. "Jeffrey made all of these. The food is delicious. He is really a good cook." Winnie was surprised. She knew that his cooking was tasty, but she didn't know that he could make casserole, too. "It is pretty tasty," Kendrick complimented him. "I thought he was just bragging last night. I didn't expect him to really know how to cook." "Uh-huh." Joshua slurped down some fresh juice while nodding his head. "It's even better than Mom's." "You brat," Pearl glared at him. "Maid told us that he woke up at 6 in the morning to make breakfast for all of us. When we woke up, the food was all ready to eat." "He is pretty good at cooking," said Winnie, nodding her head. "He's very picky about food, so he tries all kinds of recipes and cooks his own dishes." Pearl looked up at her worriedly. "Are you captivated by his good looks and his good food?" "Of course not." The truth was that she really loved his stone pot porridge. "Winnie, you're awake. Come have some breakfast," Jeffrey said as he walked out of the kitchen with a stack of pancakes in his hands. "I made some flaky pancakes as well. Not sure if you'll like how they taste." Pearl looked at it and she was astonished. "They look just like the ones they sell in stores." "Try it." Jeffrey smiled as he placed the dish on the table. He dragged a chair over for Winnie and poured some juice for her. "Baby, I haven't made breakfast for you in a long time. Dig in." Kendrick coughed and nearly choked on his food. He stared at him with his eyes wide open. He thought to himself, "Are all youngsters this cheesy nowadays?" Winnie blushed and wished that he could be a little more reserved in front of her parents. What's the matter?
Jeffrey acted surprised.
Winnie gets so busy and she has to travel for work all the time. It's difficult for me to find time to spend with her.
Oh. Peril nodded her head. They continued enjoying the breakfast that Jeffrey had prepared. After breakfast, Jenny woke up. Jeffrey quickly learned how to prepare his daughter's bathwater and proceeded to wash her face and buttocks. He clumsily changed her diapers after. It was his first time doing it, so he did it slowly. Jenny got a little impatient and started wailing. Jeffrey panicked immediately and mumbled,
"Don't cry, my darling. Daddy's just a little silly and clumsy."
Winnie found the whole scene funny, but comforting at the same time. He looked like a pathetic servant in front of his daughter, very unlike his usual cool and aloof self. When he was done, Jeffrey eagerly showed off to her.
"Look, Winnie, I know how to change diapers now. It's pretty simple."
Jenny pooped again not too long after, so he had to grab some wet wipes to clean her up. As he was cleaning her up, he mumbled to himself again,
"My darling's baby's poo-poo's not smelly at all. It smells so good. Daddy doesn't mind at all."
Winnie was speechless. At around 11 o'clock, several of her relatives had come to visit. She had many aunties, and the villa was crowded with people. Winnie was famous now. All her relatives were trying to get a selfie with her so that they could show off to their friends online. Winnie was happy to cooperate. Peril was playing cards with a group of aunties in his living room. One of Winnie's aunties asked curiously, "Hey, it's strange, isn't it? How do you have the time to sit down and play games with us this year? Kendrick isn't helping out either. Are you sure the maid can manage by herself?" Peril smiled a little. "What's the rush? There will be food on the table for sure." Great Uncle was confused.
"I just went to the bathroom, and I think I saw a young man doing some stir-frying back there. He looks pretty big and tall."
Everyone was intrigued by what Great Uncle had just shared. "Who is it? Is it Winnie's boyfriend? The boy she brought home?" "Stop talking and start playing," said Peril. "You're not denying it, so is it true then?" Winnie's auntie was invigorated. "Is it the professor that you were going to introduce to Winnie? You said that he was the son of Kendrick's friend." "Nope," Peril said. "You'll meet him later. I'll introduce him to all of you. He's still busy cooking in the kitchen now, so don't go swarming in there. We all still have to have lunch after all." Great Uncle laughed and said,
"Ah, we'd much rather go to your Winnie's wedding banquet. By the way, you should be careful with Winnie's boyfriend. We're all so worried about her. She had a baby out of wedlock after all."
"Don't worry. Everyone will be watching out for her," Peril sighed. "I would never accept anyone lower than our standards." The elders' conversation had made its way to some of Winnie's older cousins. Mia put her arm around Winnie and asked, "Well, are you back together with Ben now?" "Oh, God! Is Ben in the kitchen?" exclaimed Winnie's younger cousin, who was a die-hard fan of Ben's. She shrieked with excitement. "I want to go kiss him and hug him." "It's not Ben," Winnie shook her head. "Why isn't it him?" asked her younger cousin, disappointed. "He's so good-looking. He's almost like a god. Second Uncle has no taste at all. He should have never stopped you from getting together with Ben in the first place. If he didn't, Ben might have become my brother-in-law already." "You guys go ahead. I'm going to the washroom." Winnie excused herself and slipped away. In the kitchen, Jeffrey wore an apron around his waist, checking on the steamed pork he had put in the steamer earlier on. The pork was honey golden brown, and it looked tender and delicious. A mouth-watering scent wafted through the entire kitchen. He sprinkled some fresh spring onions over the dish
and the food looked as tantalizing as anything a restaurant would have on its menu. "Did you really make this?" asked Winnie as she popped over his shoulder. Jeffrey turned and looked at her affectionately. "Do you want to have a taste?" Winnie grabbed a fork and tasted the pork. It was fatty, but not too rich. The scent of the pork was heavenly. "It's delicious!" The maid who was washing vegetables on the side laughed. "He really made all these. I've been just helping with the prep work. I was a little worried initially, but I didn't expect him to be so experienced in the kitchen. His knife skills are far better than mine. I've been in the kitchen for decades, but I dare say his culinary skills are comparable to mine." Winnie was shocked. She whispered to Jeffrey, "I've never seen you cook these dishes before." Jeffrey grinned and whispered into her ear, "I learned it after Christmas. I wouldn't dare to come back home with you if I wasn't well prepared for all this." Winnie whispered back, "Don't you have classes to go to? You have to get ready to shoot a new movie next year as well." "There's always time. I learned these dishes at night," Jeffrey laughed. "I hired a renowned chef to teach me all of this. It took me about 2 hours every night. Anyway, I already knew how to cook in the first place, so it's not too difficult for me. The cuisine isn't too complicated either. The freshness of the ingredients plays a big role in taste." "Jeffrey!" Winnie was moved. She bit on her lower lip. "But it must have been so hard on you." "I'm willing to work hard for you," Jeffrey said gently. "You must enjoy the food from your hometown. It's a good investment since I can now cook all your favorite hometown dishes for you when we get married." "Thank you." Winnie was extremely moved. Ignoring the maid, who was still in the kitchen with them, she reached out and wrapped her arms around his waist and tiptoed to give him a peck on the cheeks. She said softly, "I haven't had such an amazing New Year in years." Suddenly, Winnie's cousin came in. After realizing that it was Jeffrey, the famous director, she was shocked. Soon, everyone gathered in the hall. "I remember that time when Winnie went up against Maddie. Even Jennifer took to social media to support her. But what did you say back then? You're always bullying our Winnie," Mia said disappointedly. Hearing that, Jeffrey's facial expression grew even more affectionate. "That's right. I intend to bully her my whole life." Despite his words, his eyes were practically dripping honey as he gazed at Winnie. For one reason or another, the people present could feel that they were showing off their relationship, like a couple shamelessly in love. Exasperated, Winnie rolled her eyes and explained, "Actually, all those people who spoke up for me, including foreign celebrities, did so because he asked them for favors. I don't have a wide social network, so I don't know many people." Peril and Kendrick were stunned. This was their first time hearing about this. The two of them had been quite worried when scores of people were criticizing Winnie on the internet back then.
No wonder,
Uncle had a sudden realization.
No wonder Mimi said that you even knew Hollywood celebrities. He really does know quite a lot of people.
When I was in Hollywood, I shot movies with a few directors there, so I know quite a few people, Jeffrey said with a smile. Not bad, Winnie. The boyfriend you found this time is young and already quite capable, Auntie smiled. Peril and Kendrick felt proud when they heard those words. Let's eat. After calling everyone, Kendrick said to Jeffrey, You've also been busy the whole afternoon. Go take a seat. It's all right. I'll feed Jenny first and come back later. Jeffrey smiled and placed the dish before leaving to prepare milk. Everyone looked at him as he was leaving, and Auntie exclaimed once again, This young boy is very good looking. He looks much more sophisticated and reliable than your brutish cousins. In terms of his looks, even Ben is slightly lacking in comparison. I'm just worried if you can hold on to him. Good-looking men are difficult to keep nowadays.
That's right, Mia nodded. I once read an article about how, despite his young age, he already has a movie that has won a Golden Lion. Even Sean Woods praised him on the international stage. Do you know how the local media describes him? They say that, without a doubt, he is the director with the most potential for the country's future. His family seems to be pretty powerful, so no one dares to mess with him. Winnie, you either refuse or go all out when it comes to men, so I'm quite worried. Kendrick and Peril couldn't help but nod as they listened. This was exactly what they were worried about as well. Winnie thought for a bit, then laughed callously. You can't say that Jeffrey isn't dependable just because he is handsome and rich. Look at those celebrities who cheated on their partners. How many of them are good-looking? They are all men with distorted features who cannot hold themselves back when they see pretty women after they become popular. On the other hand, handsome men like him have seen more and are better at controlling themselves. Everyone was silent for a moment. Peril nodded. That does seem to be the case. If men are all unreliable, then I definitely want to find a handsome one, Winnie said, grinning. The ladies present all agreed that made sense. Mia winked, then turned around to say to her mother, Mom, I don't want to go on a blind date with that guy you introduced anymore. I think he's kind of ugly. I've decided that I want to find a handsome boyfriend. You ungrateful brat! Auntie stomped her foot in anger. If you can find someone as handsome and capable as Jeffrey, I'll be at ease. The problem is, are you capable of doing that? Mia pouted. Everyone else roared with laughter. After the meal, the relatives wanted to play cards. Winnie declined as she wanted to hold her daughter for a while longer. Seeing as how he was left out, they dragged Jeffrey to join them instead. The table was full of elders, including Kendrick. Jeffrey was especially good at reading the others' expressions to the extent of guessing their cards, so he would intentionally throw whichever cards Kendrick needed to win. Of course, he didn't do that every time, only when Kendrick had difficulty winning. Winnie's cousin commented grumpily, You're doing this on purpose to suck up to your father-in-law. It's perfectly normal, even if I'm doing it on purpose, Jeffrey smiled confidently. Fathers-in-law are meant to be sucked up to in the first place. Kendrick smiled in a rare bout of good mood. This boy was indeed good at flattering, much better than that Ben fellow. As night fell, their friends and relatives returned home after enjoying another table full of Jeffrey's food. Winnie watched the Spring Festival Gala program with her parents while Jeffrey played with their daughter. Jenny no longer avoided him and was already comfortable around him after only one day. Being her biological father no doubt factored into that. At 11 o'clock, Winnie received a call from April. I'm sending my New Year's greetings early. Happy New Year! You're back in your hometown this year, right? Yes, Happy New Year. Winnie walked out while talking on the phone. Are you at home with Aaron? Yep. My parents are spending New Year's in Europe, and Jeffrey said that he'll be visiting his girlfriend's family. That said, I don't know when he got himself a girlfriend. He's never brought her home to meet us. My mom said that he's going to marry into their family one day. Winnie glanced awkwardly at Jeffrey, who was preoccupied with their daughter. It's a good thing he's found a girlfriend. He'll probably bring her over to meet you soon. Don't worry. A man as arrogant as he is will never marry into another family. April laughed. You can't be sure of that. My dad said that he adores that woman to the point where he even wants to get married next year. That woman must be really something to be able to tame a man like Jeffrey. Winnie felt more awkward as the conversation continued, so she quickly changed the subject. Isn't Sylvia bringing her boyfriend home for New Year's this time as well? Yes, Professor Kipling came as well. April was amused.
He follows Sylvia everywhere. Sylvia should be going over to his family after the New Year festival. They're planning to get married next year. That's pretty good, Winnie said. It is, but my husband and his dad are still worried for some reason. Who knows what's in their heads? The two of them talked for over 20 minutes until Aaron called for April on the other end. They hung up soon after. The moment Winnie turned around, she saw Jeffrey holding their daughter, staring at her from behind. The faint moonlight fell on their faces, accentuating how incredibly alike they looked. Who were you talking to for so long? Jeffrey pouted. Your sister, Winnie smiled gently as she picked up her daughter and showered her with kisses. Have you called your family tonight? I have. They will only be coming back after they are satisfied. Jeffrey sighed. They are planning to visit the North Pole. Your parents are very free-spirited, Winnie said with envy. But I have to start working on the third day of the New Year festival. You can go over to April's place this holiday. It's all right, Jeffrey shook his head. I plan to stay at your house until the 7th day. I just told your parents. Winnie was speechless. So he intended to stay at her house without her? How brave of him, especially since the house would be full of guests paying their New Year greetings. Most guys would feel awkward and downright ashamed. I told your parents that, sooner or later, I'll be their son-in-law, and I should try to fit in with your family as soon as possible. Also, since you're always busy with your work, I should spend more time with them instead, Jeffrey said. And I want to learn how to take care of Jenny so that you can live like a queen once we're married. I'll take full responsibility for Jenny. Your parents were glad to hear that. Winnie fell silent. She was at a loss for words. To be honest, Winnie thought that Jeffrey would have a hard time fitting in with her family because of his cold and distant attitude. Who knew that, after only one day, he was practically their son? Just by yourself? Are you sure about this? Winnie was worried about him. Jeffrey chuckled. I'll make your parents see me as their own. Winnie could not doubt Jeffrey anymore since he had given her his words. As if time had stopped, they were completely lost in each other's presence. It was almost midnight. Fireworks exploded in the sky above the small town. Peril and Kendrick would have usually been asleep at that hour. However, because of Jeffrey and Winnie, they decided not to go to bed so early.
Dad, do you know where Jeffy is? I want to fire off some fireworks with him, asked Joshua as he ran towards Kendrick with all kinds of fireworks in his arms. Kendrick looked around puzzled and said, He was just here. Maybe he went to the bathroom, said Winnie. She did not pay much attention to Jeffrey before that as she was taking care of Jenny. Hang on a second, Joshy. I'll get him to go with you. Just as Joshua was about to nod in acknowledgement, a huge bang came from the garden. How could you set off the fireworks in the garden without me?
Joshua rushed out first, but she was astounded by what she saw. Although fireworks were being set off all over town to celebrate the new year, the sky above Winnie's family's house was especially bright with all sorts of fireworks. It was as bright as daylight and as colorful as a rainbow. Shining autumn chrysanthemums were blooming in the sky, with fiery roses twinkling among them. Red, yellow, green, pink, and more. Every burst added a splash of color to the world above. Winnie, Peril, and Kendrick walked out of the house as well. They were all amazed by the scene.
Look, sis!
Josh shouted out of the blue. Their gaze fell from the sky and onto the garden below. It had been snowing for 2 days. The garden was covered in white snow. At that very moment, red, shimmering candles decorated the snow in the shape of a heart. Jeffrey had some sparklers lighted in his left hand and a bouquet of red roses in his right. He stood in the middle of the candle arrangement as if he were a snow fairy. He looked into Winnie's eyes, his eyes sparkling like the fireworks above them. It happened all so fast and surprised everyone. Winnie was stunned, much less the entire family. Only Jenny, who was in the arms of her mother, was shouting with excitement when she saw the sparklers in Jeffrey's hands. No one understood what she was trying to say. Jeffrey looked at Jenny's smiling face and his heart melted. He went through so much when he was a little boy. He never imagined that day would come so soon. It was as if his life was complete.
Uncle, Auntie, I would like to propose to Winnie with you here.
The sparklers went out. Jeffrey slowly walked to Winnie with the bouquet in his hands. He took out a ring, kneeled on one knee on the snowy ground, and said,
I know this all happened too fast, and your parents have not accepted me completely. You probably never saw this coming either, but I think today is the day. Everyone's here. Jenny's here. I, Jeffrey, am only 22, but I know exactly what I want. I want to take care of you and Jenny. I want to be your shelter. I want to give you all you need. I will never betray you, and I will always love you.
Winnie's heart raced. Maybe it was too much of a surprise. Her mind went blank.
However, Kendrick soon calmed down and frowned. You two are way too young right now. You are crazy in love now, and you promised to be with her for the rest of her life. Do you even understand what an entire lifetime means? It's not just a few years. It's decades. Staying with each other for your whole life is not easy. I know.
Jeffrey looked down to the ground. His lips were pale, freezing. He continued.
My parents fell in love when they were both very young. They divorced soon after. You're right. Marriage won't last a lifetime just because of love. It requires devotion. I love Winnie, and I am willing to devote myself to her. Winnie, I'm not lying. I did not know Jenny was my daughter. I only knew that you had a child, and I thought she was Ben's baby. I hesitated. I was in pain. I was mean to you. But still, I couldn't resist getting closer to you. I couldn't stand anyone taking advantage of you. And at that time, I thought, even if you had another man's child, I still want to be with you. I would be willing to accept the child for your sake. So when I found out that Jenny was my daughter, I was thrilled. The past few days we spent together, Jenny, you, and me, I've never felt so complete. It's as if I finally found my direction and goal in life. I finally understand why a man would work so hard his whole life.
Every word from Jeffrey echoed inside Winnie's heart. It was the first time Winnie had ever heard those words, and it was the first time that she realized what Jeffrey was thinking. It seemed like Jeffrey was telling the truth. He did not know Jenny was his child, but he still chose to help her and was nice to her the whole time. Winnie did not realize how much pain he was in while she knew the whole time that Jenny was his daughter. In hindsight, it was incredible how much pain Jeffrey had to endure. Even Peril sighed as if she felt all of Jeffrey's pain. If a man could accept another man's child as his own, he was doing it for love. Jeffrey's knee was sore. He had never knelt for so long in his life. Nevertheless, Jeffrey continued to say,
Uncle, Auntie, I understand if you do not trust me. Winnie and I have not known each other for very long, but your daughter is going to marry someone eventually. You can take your time to test and see if I'm a good man or not. Marriage is an art, and I'm simply asking you for a chance.
Peril looked at Kendrick, unsure of what to do. What do you say?
Kendrick walked toward Jeffrey and said, Did your parents approve of your proposal? Have you prepared an apartment? Where are you going to live? Have you thought about that? My parents do not interfere with my life. I can be with whoever I like. If they do not approve of us and insist that we shouldn't be together,
You could just adopt me into your family," Jeffrey said nonchalantly.
Kendrick was speechless. Jeffrey then answered,
"As for where to live, probably Rosewood City. But I'll live where Winnie pleases. I'll be stuck with her for life anyway."
Winnie found that rather amusing. Isn't it the bride who usually says that? Stuck with the man for life? It was instead Jeffrey who said that.
"Winnie, will you marry me?"
Jeffrey looked at Winnie's smiling face and said with all his heart,
"I'll cook for you for life. I'll make chicken wings. I'll make snacks for you in the middle of the night. I'll buy you milk tea, ice cream, yogurt."
Those are not healthy choices, though.
Joshua could not help but complain.
"Because I want to make your sister my little piggy,"
Jeffrey said gently. Joshua was upset.
Do you want to marry me? I'd marry you.
Jeffrey was at a loss for words. Joshua could never keep his thoughts to himself. This was nothing like what Jeffrey had planned. Peril pulled Joshua by his ear. "Why can't you just think before you speak for once?"
But those are my favorite foods.
Joshua curled his lips when he could not help but laugh out loud. "Joshy, if I agree to marry him, I'll get him to buy all those things for you every single day." Jeffrey's eyes lit up. Kendrick frowned helplessly.
"Winnie!"
"Dad, I know that you probably do not see me as a reliable person." Winnie looked into her father's eyes with determination. "I hurt you and Mom because of Ben. I insisted on keeping the child and put you in a difficult spot. But I truly believe that Jeffrey loves me a lot. He may be younger than me, but he took good care of me when we were together. He protected me. He is the most talented and capable person I've ever met, despite his age. When I was young, I said all the nice things in the world about Ben. Then I met Jeffrey and quickly learned that those nice things I've said before were all out of ignorance and naivety. I did not understand what qualities to look for in a man." Winnie continued, "Jeffrey's not perfect. He might be a little bit childish when handling relationships, and he gets jealous easily. He has quite a temper as well whenever he gets jealous. Other than that, I can't find anything else I might dislike. He even promised me he would work on those shortcomings. I don't think there's such a thing as a perfect match, no matter who you are. You need to take time to learn each other's pace, just like how you and Mom would still get into fights sometimes. I cannot promise that I will be with Jeffrey till the end of time or that he will love me forever, but I am willing to take this chance with him." Winnie finished with a small smile. As parents, Kendrick and Peril were deeply moved by their daughter's words. Jeffrey was touched as well. He could feel the overwhelming rush of emotion rising up within him. "All right, you've gone and said it. What more could your father and I say?" Peril declared. There was nothing more she could do. They had a baby, and she thought that Jeffrey behaved well in the few days he was with them. Even if Jeffrey was just trying to please Kendrick and herself, she could tell that he was comfortable doing chores and cooking. He must have learned all those things when he was younger. Also, although Jeffrey was from a good family and had a bright future, he did not have the bad habits of other rich kids. Peril could see Jeffrey's sincerity as he proposed in front of Kendrick and herself.
"Jeffrey, I hope you keep your promise," Kendrick warned him. "If you treat her badly, I don't care who you are or where you're from, I will not let my daughter be wronged by you. And Winnie, no matter which man you choose, you'll still need to rely on yourself. Don't forget to keep working hard just like before," Kendrick advised his daughter. "Thank you, Dad." Jeffrey appreciated Kendrick's words. "Now, come and put the ring on her. What are you still doing in the snow? Are you trying to become an ice sculpture?" Kendrick asked bluntly. Jeffrey tried to move but realized his leg was numb from all the kneeling. He could barely feel his knee. It was as cold as the snow beneath him. Jeffrey gave a bitter smile. "Winnie, come over to me. My knee's numb." Winnie walked over to him. Her heart ached for him despite the awkwardly comedic situation. She was just about to help Jeffrey up, but he pulled her down into his arms and put the ring on her finger. Jeffrey then pressed his thin lips onto Winnie's forehead. God knew how much Jeffrey wanted to kiss Winnie on her lips, but her parents were watching, so he had to restrain himself. Joshua covered his eyes with his hands, trying his best not to look at them. The fireworks got louder and louder outside. It was past 12. A new year had arrived.
Winnie, Jenny, Happy New Year,
he said. After half an hour, Jeffrey went back to his room. Tossing and turning, he could not sleep. Jeffrey had just proposed. He was now Winnie's fiancé, and her parents had given them their blessing. He could finally take Winnie back home properly. But why was he still alone in bed that night? Jeffrey couldn't help but grab his phone to message Winnie. "Baby, are you still up? I can't sleep." Winnie replied almost instantly. "Me either." After all, they had just gone through their first ever proposal. They were filled with all sorts of thoughts, sweet and complicated. No one could sleep like a log after what had just happened. Jeffrey replied, "What a happy coincidence. How about I come over?" Winnie texted back a blank emoji. Jeffrey, "I haven't experienced the pleasure of the flesh for more than half a month now. It's a special day and it's New Year. Maybe we could." Winnie, "Stop it. Jenny's right next to me." Jeffrey, "I'll be gentle and quiet." Winnie, "What if my parents find out? My dad would flip." Jeffrey, "I'll be really, really gentle and quiet." Winnie, "I'll go get sleep now." Jeffrey had to stare at his phone all night. He did not get any sleep at all. The next day, many friends and relatives came over to wish the family a happy New Year. On the second day of the New Year, Kendrick took the family to Winnie's grandmother's house. While the older generation was busy playing cards, Winnie took Jenny and Jeffrey out for a walk in town. So many memories of Winnie were of that ancient town with beautiful hills and bodies of water. "Look, that's my elementary school," Winnie said. Jeffrey had a look. There were only 3 buildings, but the school was located in a perfect place, surrounded by hills and rivers. Jeffrey could tell that it wasn't a poor village. "Did you go to your middle school and high school here as well?" Jeffrey asked. "No, in the city," Winnie explained. "This is my hometown. We have a huge factory behind the hills. We sell those to places all over the country. My parents live in the city and only come back for vacation or just for the weekend. They need to communicate and learn from others a lot because they work in the arts. Sometimes they need to travel out of town as well. They only occasionally visit the factory. It's my uncles who usually take care of the factory." "Winnie, I understand now. Your family has a long line of pottery making, and you are the heiress of this great family." Jeffrey pinched Winnie's nose and said, "No wonder you're like this now." "Like what?" Winnie was curious. "Headstrong." Jeffrey smiled and glanced at her. "Not seeking fame or wealth and not competitive." Winnie was a little embarrassed. "Yeah, I guess so. I didn't care much about those things because my family gave me everything I needed. My mom and dad wished that I could get educated and more cultured so that I could continue their work. But I am not really into ceramics." "It's perfect now. What do you say, Jenny?" Jeffrey bent over and asked Jenny, who was in the pram, wearing layers upon layers of heavy clothing. Jenny waved her arms and legs, babbling happily. It was a shame that no one could understand what she was trying to say. "Winnie, are you leaving tomorrow? I can come over secretly, right?" Jeffrey got close to Winnie and whispered all of the sudden. Winnie's cheeks turned red. After some time, the wind delivered her message to Jeffrey. "Okay." They made their way back home after their long walk as a family. It was 2 a.m. Barely a sound could be heard. Winnie opened the door. Jeffrey slipped in, pulled her into his arms, and lifted her up. "Baby, I don't want you to go." said Jeffrey as he buried his head into Winnie's shoulder. It's going to be a busy year. I need to go on tours. It's gonna get better, though. Winnie held his face and said, Spend more time with your daughter. Well, Jeffrey answered with a sexy voice. He looked down to look for Winnie's lips. Ever since they came to Winnie's family home, even though they spent every day together, Kendrick and Peril were rather strict, and Winnie was always taking care of Jenny, so they did not even have a chance to kiss each other. It was deep in the night. Jeffrey could not stop once he had a taste of her. It was addictive.
Jeffrey held Winnie in his arms while keeping his lips on hers. He moved to the bed, only to realize that his own daughter was sleeping right in the middle of it. Jeffrey was confused. How were they going to sleep? He looked around the room and got upset. Winnie, your room's too small. You don't even have a couch. I left home when I went to study. My parents never renovated my room. Who in their right mind would put a couch in a school kid's room? Winnie mumbled quietly in Jeffrey's arms. Jeffrey saw no way out. He looked around the room and sat Winnie down on the desk near the window. He closed the curtains, leaving only a small gap. The room got dark. You're not going to do it here, said Winnie, surprised after she had realized what was happening. Where else, then? Do you want to stand? Jeffrey asked while kissing her. The two fooled around for quite a while in the dark. Jeffrey asked with a husky voice, You never saw this day coming, right? You used to study at this desk every day, right? Did you think about Ben at night when you came back here over the weekends? You grow up. Winnie felt his thin lips caressing her ears. His breaths made her body hot. Winnie spaced out for a little while. She did think about Ben. That was all she could think about when she had her first love. Thinking back, she felt that it was really lame. Jeffrey got rougher while Winnie was lost in her thoughts. Winnie held on to him as she trembled uncontrollably. It was late when they were done. Jeffrey brought her to bed gently and moved Jenny. He kissed Winnie on her forehead and said, There now. Sleep tight. When are you going back to your room? Winnie mumbled as she was sleepy. I'll leave when you're asleep. Jeffrey's sexy voice wafted in Winnie's ears. She closed her eyes and fell asleep in no time. Winnie woke up the next day when Peril came knocking on her door. Winnie, didn't you say the flight was at 11 this morning? You need to head to the airport. It's already 9 o'clock. All right, I'll get up now, Winnie answered. She sat up immediately and looked at the desk with some guilt. She remembered that she had knocked the lamp over the night before. The books were everywhere, but they were now nice and tidy. She felt a little awkward thinking back on the previous night's events. Winnie stepped out of her room with Jenny in her arms. Jeffrey was having breakfast and was in a good mood. He whispered into her ear, I woke up earlier than you this morning. Winnie rolled her eyes and said, I got up at 5 to feed Jenny and change her diaper. It took me more than a half hour. Jeffrey was speechless. What a woman. After breakfast, Winnie said a long goodbye to Jenny and then asked Jeffrey to take her to the airport. She teared up thinking about Jenny on the way. Winnie, don't think about it anymore. I'll take Jenny to Rosewood City for a while when I have my next holiday, and you can see her then. Or, if you want, when you finish your tour, I'll bring her to live with us, Jeffrey said. Winnie nodded her head. She, too, hoped for that day to arrive, for the child to grow a little older so she can walk and stay with her parents, so that she knew how much her parents love and care about her. So we have to get married as soon as possible, Jeffrey added. Winnie kept quiet. They were going to get married as soon as she accepted his proposal? You don't agree with what I said? Jeffrey said matter-of-factly. If our child grows up and finds out that her parents aren't even married yet, she would be heartbroken. She might even think of herself as an illegitimate child. Winnie was a little unsettled by what he had just said. When they had finally reached the airport, He let her out of the car, her lips all swollen from his kisses. You can go back to Rosewood City if you're not used to things at home. I won't be around to keep you company. My mother's all right, but my father might be a little difficult to get along with.
All right, have a safe flight. Remember to call me when you reach.
She was going to participate in a television program during the New Year period, and she had to fly to the States after that for a dance choreography practice for her tour later on. The next 3 months were going to be an intense boot camp session for her. As she was leaving, she had gotten pretty worried about Jeffrey. She felt bad for leaving him alone at her place, and she would call him every day. On the 6th day of the new year, the program that she was in had gone on air, and she had a duet with another young singer. They had to hold hands and serenade each other during their performance. Kendrick called her after watching the program.
Winnie, let me remind you that you have a fiancé. You have to watch your boundaries, even if it's for your job or performance. If I were Jeffrey, I would be very uncomfortable watching you and that singer tonight.
Dad, this is all part of my job. You've seen my work so many times, said Winnie. She thought that she was hearing him wrong.
How could that be the same? Things are different now. I didn't know Jeffrey was your boyfriend,
Kendrick said nonchalantly. Winnie rubbed her ears and said, Dad, since when were you such a big supporter of Jeffrey? Things were like that when she left on the 3rd day of the new year.
I just think he's a pretty good guy after spending more time with him. He's a responsible and mature boy. Up until you left, I thought he was just putting on an act. But I'm really taken aback by his performance these past couple of days.
Kendrick was cut off mid-sentence when Peril snatched the phone away from him. Winnie, you haven't allowed us to rest and enjoy our lives, but Jeffrey has, Peril remarked. I was so exhausted in the past, even with our maid's help. But Jeffrey has taken care of every little thing in the house the past couple of days. Your father and I haven't been in the kitchen at all. Not even once. Your aunties are all so envious of me. And that's not even the half of it. Jeffrey would spend every minute of his free time with the baby. He didn't even know how to bathe, dress, or change Jenny's diapers when he arrived. But he's learned to do all of that now. He has no problem sleeping with her at night now. He talks about homewares and ceramics with your father and me. He can also hold a conversation about our country's history, and he's a quite serious kid. He even takes notes on our conversations on a notepad. He said that he wanted to film a movie about the traditional craftsmen of our country so that young people can learn more about our beautiful culture and history. It's a call for our young people to look into the past for inspiration and not just at a new technology and the digitalization of things. He says that he doesn't want the essence of our culture to be lost. Winnie was completely speechless. She couldn't even begin to describe how she felt at that moment. Were her parents completely brainwashed by Jeffrey? Kendrick took the phone back again and continued.
I completely agree with what he's saying. If you knew anything about culture, you wouldn't have gone and learned singing. This kid's more mature than you. He has more foresight and he's sophisticated.
Winnie couldn't stand it any longer and interrupted him.
Dad! I didn't know what kind of luck you had to find such a good boy like Jeffrey, Kendrick remarked. I finally understand why he is such a good film director at such a young age. He's got depth and sophistication. He's not like those other directors nowadays. Too superficial.
Winnie held her tongue.
I'm telling you, don't you dare let him down. I won't be able to forgive you if you hurt a good boy like him,
Kendrick said.
To top it all off, the boy's cooking is absolutely superb. Everything's so delicious. Your brother's already put on a few pounds since you were here last.
Sis, can you ask brother-in-law to stay here for a while longer?
Joshua's voice echoed in the background.
I'm eating my brother-in-law's chicken wings right now.
Brother-in-law? Winnie quietly ended the call. She had a headache. That night, she called Jeffrey. Amazing! You managed to win over my entire family in just a couple of days. How did you bribe them?
Winnie, that's not very nice. I'm just being a good son-in-law to your parents on your behalf. I'm so exhausted every day.
Jeffrey sounded grumpy over the phone.
You have so many relatives. My hands are filled with calluses from all the cooking I've been doing. I have to take care of Jenny at night as well. My body is completely drained of life, and I'm just so tired.
Winnie could imagine how tiring it would be to take care of all the chores like that. She said, You don't have to do all those. You still have to study and make movies. Don't tire yourself out and get sick.
Don't worry, I'm leaving tomorrow,
Jeffrey answered her softly.
I think your parents are having a difficult time as well since you're not around, and they're getting old. They just don't tell you about their struggles nowadays. I'm just doing all that I can while I'm here. To be honest, that's all I can do. Parents would never ask their children to do more.
Jeffrey! Winnie was moved by his words. She felt ashamed of her attitude and her shortcomings. Thank you. I was being too petty earlier on. You are right. I'll treat my parents better in the future.
Your parents? There's no difference from now on. Your parents are my parents too,
Jeffrey said. Winnie blushed. She thought about her words earlier when all Jeffrey did was to take good care of her parents. She fell silent for a moment before saying, You're right. There's no distinction between us from now on. She was embarrassed by what she had said. She shut her eyes. Winnie and Jeffrey weren't even married yet, and they were going to treat each other's parents as their own already. She was still a little too embarrassed to say it out loud.
All right then, I still have chores to do, little sweetie. Be good,
Jeffrey chuckled. Winnie covered her face. Good thing they were on the phone. Some time had passed since then. On the 7th day of the new year, Jeffrey said his goodbyes to his darling daughter before leaving. Winnie's family packed plenty of souvenirs for him to bring back. On his flight back, Jeffrey thought about the things that he had to do when he arrived home. He had to first buy a new house, with a room to be converted into a nursery. It wasn't that he didn't want to live with Winnie's parents. They were a young newlywed couple after all, and he wanted to spend time together with Winnie in private. At the airport, he got into his car and drove straight over to the villa. April watched as her brother climbed out of his car with all kinds of souvenirs. She was a little surprised after not seeing him for so long. There's so much preserved meat. Where's your girlfriend from? Jeffrey kept quiet. Erin walked over and patted her shoulders.
Who cares where she's from? The meat looks like it's smoked well. Let's have some for dinner tonight.
He wasn't going to tell her. If April found out that her younger brother was dating her best friend, she would freak out. When they went in, Jeffrey ran over and hugged Little Apple affectionately. Seeing Little Apple reminded him of his daughter, and he gave a big fat envelope filled with money. April was shocked when she saw the red packet. Why did you put so much in there? You didn't even give us much for his 100th day celebration.
I made more money this year, Jeffrey said nonchalantly. Just keep it.
Why do I feel you're a lot more caring after coming back from your girlfriend's place? April remarked. She felt as though she had just watched her own son grow up. You were gone for quite a long time. It's already the 7th day of the new year.
Yeah, I stayed with my girlfriend's parents for a couple days after she left,
Jeffrey said casually as he fed Little Apple. April kept quiet. Her eyes widened in disbelief. It took a while to process everything before she asked. You mean to say that you stayed at her place even after she left?
Yeah,
Jeffrey answered.
They're eventually going to become my father and mother-in-law anyway. Is it strange to be spending time together like that?
April gave him a thumbs up. Good for you. Your skills are comparable to your brother-in-law's.
You can just talk about him. Why do you have to bring me into the picture?
Erin said as he continued playing with her fingers. He had to admit that the guy was almost as thick-skinned as he was. As they were talking, Jeffrey's phone rang. He quickly picked up and said gently,
Hello? Ma? I'm Marty in Rosewood City. I'm eating at my sister's place. I have to thank you and Pa for taking care of me these past few days. I'll go back and visit both of you when the holidays come around. Bye.
April's jaw dropped. Was this the same stone-cold brother that she knew? After she hung up, April asked him, "You weren't talking to our real mother who's still in Europe, were you?"
Of course not. This was my girlfriend's mother,
Jeffrey said matter-of-factly. April's mouth twitched. It was a good thing that Melissa wasn't around to listen to that conversation. She would have been upset. He hadn't even brought his girlfriend home yet. He was already calling her parents Ma and Pa. He's really thick-skinned, even more so than his brother-in-law, April thought to herself. Halfway through dinner, a sudden stench wafted through the air. Aaron's expression changed and he said through gritted teeth,
"Little brat, did you just poop again?"
Little Apple didn't say anything. Instead, he gave him a sheepish grin as he stared at his father with teary eyes. Aaron frowned and said,
"How many times must I tell you this? You have to tell me when you're pooping. You're doing this on purpose just to disgust us."
April grinned. Then what should he tell you? Just go and clean it up over there. I'm still eating. Aaron kept quiet. He was still eating well. Little Apple blinked several times and he pouted as he turned around and hugged April's thighs. He burst into tears as he wailed, "Mama, Papa's bullying little baby." Aaron laughed.
"How am I bullying you? I didn't curse at you when I scolded you. You didn't manage to learn how to speak properly, but you sure know how to complain. As a man, no matter how tough it gets, you have to stay strong and steadfast like steel."
April placed her son onto her lap before instinctively rolling her eyes at Aaron. "Look at how young he is. He's just a little over 1. It's already impressive that he can speak so much. So how can you expect him to speak fluently? Do you know what you're doing?" After being speechless from what April had said for a while, he suddenly replied,
"Lulu, you're right. However, as a boy, he must be strong and resilient. I've decided that I'll send him to train in martial arts when he turns 3, and then he'll attend swimming classes at night. Additionally, I'll send him to the army when he turns 18. I've always wanted to contribute to the country in some way, but I can't because of my physical limitations. Son, I don't expect you to become a senior general, but you must at least become a lieutenant."
Little Apple looked puzzled. April sighed. It would tire their son out if he tried to carry all of his father's aspirations on his back. Noticing that April said nothing, Aaron pursed his lips and added,
"All right, fine. Even if you can't do all of those things, you must at least be filial to your parents. That's the least you can do as a man. Forget about your old man, but you must be good to your mother. If your father dies and leaves your mother alone, you must take care of her."
"What nonsense are you spouting?" April quickly covered his mouth, visibly upset. Aaron frowned and sighed.
"I'm not spouting nonsense. I'm so much older than you that by the time I hit my 70s, you would only be 60. You can never tell what's going to happen with these things, so I just want to play safe. Therefore, I have to educate our son well."
"That won't happen." April felt dejected thinking about his words, so she tried to convince both of them.
"April, you'll miss me, right?"
Aaron hugged her tightly, touched by her reaction. April smiled and replied, "There's a saying that goes, villains often enjoy long lives." Aaron's expression changed and he playfully bit her lips. Little Apple looked up with his naive eyes. His father was bullying his mother again. To him, he was eating her lips. He then angrily tugged on Aaron's robes. Just as the family of 3 was about to get into another squabble, the phone rang. April pushed him away and looked over at his phone. "Why would Jeremy call you at this hour?"
"Is it Richard? He's been in a foul mood recently because of his fight with Jennifer. He's been spending a lot of time at bars," Aaron remarked as he picked up his phone. "Aaron, come over to the hospital now. Sylvia suffered a gunshot injury on duty."
Jeremy's voice was hoarse over the line. Aaron stood up immediately and his face fell.
"Sylvia's team organized a stakeout on a serial killer, but the killer was sly and crafty. He was hiding in the cave with a gun, and Sylvia took a shot in her thigh. She's been sent to the hospital now, and I'm on my way there too,"
Jeremy said in a hurry.
"I'll make my way there immediately."
Aaron put on his coat swiftly after he hung up. I'll go there with you. April stood up as well, and she handed the child over to the nanny. The two of them made their way to the hospital by car. On their way there, Aaron called his parents to update them. This prompted April to update Jack as well, but he did not pick up.
Who were you calling?
Aaron asked. Jack, but he's not picking up, April answered with a frown. He may be asleep at this hour.
He wouldn't turn his phone off even if he's asleep, Aaron said angrily. Which man would turn his phone off at night when he's seeing someone? What if his girlfriend can't reach him on the phone when something happens? That'll be too irresponsible of him.
Well, you can't put it that way. Didn't Sylvia say before that he didn't even own a cell phone in the past? Perhaps he doesn't really like to answer calls from strangers. April replied helplessly.
Are we even strangers? He even spent the new year with the Bennett family.
Aaron's fingers trembled as he clutched the steering wheel.
I've told her before that she should just work in office, and yet she chose not to listen. It's not so easy to be out there solving crimes. There's simply too many violent criminals now.
Don't make it sound so horrifying. April held his hand and frowned. I remember Sylvia mentioning previously that Jack had slightly remodeled her bulletproof vest. It was much sturdier than before.
Is his research even reliable?
Aaron did not believe Jack in the slightest.
The robot from last time is the best example.
But the watch he gave me was pretty reliable. April wanted to speak, but she held herself back on her second thought. Aaron was no longer in the mood to continue the conversation with her, and it grew quiet in the car. When they arrived at the hospital, Jeremy, Carlo, and several other colleagues from the police department were already keeping watch in the ward. Sylvia lay silently on the hospital bed, and she was put on a ventilator. Her face was pale, and she remained unconscious while the doctors beside her injected medication for her.
How is she?
Aaron marched over and directly pulled over an intern doctor who was standing by the side. The intern doctor jumped in fright when he saw how aggressive Aaron looked.
Her leg. She was shot once in her leg and her chest. She was also shot in the chest?
Aaron's pupils narrowed in fear.
Fortunately, she was wearing a bulletproof vest. However, as the bullet was fired at a relatively close range, her lungs are showing signs of respiratory failure. For now, she'll need to rely on a ventilator to breathe.
The chief attending physician stood up and walked over as he explained.
Thankfully, she's not in a critical condition.
Carlo, who was standing by the side, could feel his heart palpitate as he said,
Sylvia's life is truly blessed. She was shot in the chest at such a close range. The rest of us would have probably died even if we were wearing a normal bulletproof vest. Seems like this is all thanks to the bulletproof vest from Professor Kipling.
Aaron frowned, while Jeremy had a complicated expression in his eyes.
Where's Jack? Has he come over yet? We didn't manage to reach him,
Aaron replied. He then questioned in a low voice.
What on earth happened tonight? Did you catch the serial killer? We got him. I shot twice at his thighs and hands,
Carlos said before smiling bitterly.
It was a miscalculation of strategy. We underestimated how perverse the killer would be. This time there were a series of cases of missing women from the neighboring town. We managed to identify a suspect, but he noticed our presence and fled. We didn't expect him to own a gun when we chased after him. Our captain is heading over to the house of the suspect now to rescue the women who have been abducted. We must lock that criminal up for the rest of his life,
Aaron said through gritted teeth. Not long after, the members of the Bennett family arrived. They only began to leave one after another when the wee hours came. Meanwhile, Caitlin and Aaron stayed to take care of Sylvia. At 3 a.m., the doctor called Aaron over. Caitlin felt drowsy as she sat on the sofa, but just then she noticed a silhouette at the entrance of the ward. When the silhouette silently slipped in, Caitlin's eyes snapped open. She then realized it was Jeremy. He was holding onto a pail, along with some towels, a wash basin, and other items such as toothbrush and toothpaste. Stunned, Caitlin stood up and asked, "Why haven't you gone home yet?"
I'm slightly worried since she's still unconscious.
When Jeremy uttered these simple and concise words, there was a subtle hint of concern in his sharp eyes. Caitlin looked at him with mixed feelings. At the very beginning, she did not dislike Jeremy. However, after he broke off the engagement with her daughter, she came to have a negative opinion of him. "I appreciate your help," Caitlin eventually uttered these 4 words. "You should also head back soon to rest." "Let's wait until she regains consciousness. Otherwise, I won't be able to sleep even if I go home anyway." Jeremy turned to look at Sylvia, who was lying on the bed, and there was a deep look in his eyes. Just when Caitlin was about to say something, Jeremy turned his head back and added, "Don't worry, Miss Bennett. I know that you don't like to see me. I'll go out now." After he said this, he began to walk out of the ward. Just then, Caitlin stood up and replied, "Jeremy, things are over between the two of you. Sylvia has a boyfriend now. I'm sure you'll meet a better person too." "I have nothing to say if her boyfriend can treat her better than I do and give her a sense of security. Besides, Sylvia isn't merely just my ex-girlfriend. We grew up together." With that, Jeremy walked out of the ward. As the gray skies barely brightened, the person on the bed abruptly jerked up and let out a few muted moans. Aaron quickly paged the doctor. After the doctor conducted another round of checks, Sylvia slowly regained consciousness. Her eyes weakly scanned the room before she murmured, "Mom? Brother? Jeremy?" As she tried to string her words together, she felt a tightness in her chest. Immediately after, the doctor swiftly cupped the oxygen mask over her mouth. "Don't say anything. The doctor said that your lungs are slightly injured, so you better rest well." Caitlin caressed Sylvia's head, her heart awash with sympathy for her daughter. Sylvia nodded her head. "Sylvia, are you hungry?" Jeremy asked gently. "I'll go get you some breakfast." "It's best for her to have some soup. Solid foods that are too tough aren't suitable for her," the doctor reminded. "Sure," Jeremy replied, and he headed out of the ward before Aaron could do so. Sylvia spaced out as she watched his silhouette disappear. Only after a long time did she then look at Caitlin helplessly. Her lips moved as if she wanted to say something, but no sound came out of her mouth. However, Caitlin could still discern that she was mouthing the word, Jack. "We still can't reach him yet," Caitlin sighed. "April called him a few times, but nobody answered the call." Caitlin felt slightly sorry for Sylvia, and after a pause, she added, "But Jeremy kept watching the ward for the entire night. He was the one who bought all these things." A frown formed on Sylvia's pale face. Shortly after, she yanked off her oxygen mask with all her strength and uttered, "He doesn't answer calls from strangers." Aaron was utterly speechless. "Is your sister-in-law a stranger? He should at least save the contact details of his girlfriend's family members. Isn't this common sense?" A dull look appeared in Sylvia's eyes. As Jack was extremely introverted, certain aspects of his character were unlike that of normal people, which Sylvia had been well aware of since a long time ago. Hence, she heaved out a silent sigh in her heart before closing her eyes. The sense of discomfort in her chest made it impossible for her to speak. When it was past 7 a.m., David and April also dropped by, and they stayed right up until 9 a.m., when Sylvia was taken away for a checkup. Caitlin was now the only one left in the ward. All of a sudden, the door violently swung open and Jack barged in. He was wearing his white lab coat, and a look of anxiety was written all over his refined face. Caitlin had been resting, but the sudden loud commotion made her jump in fright. She opened her eyes, and when she saw Jack, she became incandescent with anger. Auntie, where's Sylvia?" Jack stuttered as he asked. His delicate face was as white as a sheet of paper. "You're too late," Caitlin replied crossly. "Late?" Jack felt his head buzz. Was Sylvia gone? Jack recalled how his heart felt as if it was coming to a stop this morning when he received a message from Granny Bennett saying that Sylvia had sustained serious gunshot wounds and was in critical condition. His mind was in a mess as he made his way to the hospital. He merely wished for Sylvia to be safe and for her to tide over her critical condition. He could not understand why she would be gone so abruptly. She had called him the previous morning to get him to buy tickets for a movie that she liked, which would premiere in 2 days. He had already bought the tickets. Now that she was gone, there was nobody left to watch the movie with. Jack seemed lost. He was in disbelief, and he felt that everyone was lying to him. In the next instant, he turned around and left without another word. Caitlin found his behavior baffling. "Hey, hang on. Where are you going?" she asked. However, despite calling after him for a long time, Jack did not even bother answering her. Aaron was making his way towards the ward when he suddenly spotted Jack walking towards him. Jack scuffled anxiously, and his footsteps were in a rush. His face was pale as if he had been dealt a blow. There was a dazed, hollow look in his eyes, and he merely charged forward without glancing at them. Aaron frowned. He was expecting Jack to greet him, but Jack merely brushed past them as if he did not see them. Aaron instantly flew into a rage and immediately grabbed Jack's elbow. "Where are you going? Let's not talk about how we couldn't even reach you when Sylvia was sent to the hospital. At the very least, shouldn't you greet us when you see us?" Aaron would brush this off in the past since he was aware of Jack's condition. However, after Jack began dating Sylvia, he opened up more since then. He would even smile when he saw them. Thus, his current behavior made Aaron furious. Jack merely continued to walk on without looking at him. His white lab coat was already torn in half. "Jack!" Aaron immediately yanked him over. "What's wrong with you?" Jack forcefully pushed his arm away and pursed his lips together. There was still a vacant expression in his eyes. "Let go of me," Jack finally spoke up. However, his voice was very soft. "Where would you be going if I were to let you go?" Aaron was relentless. "I won't allow Sylvia to be with you if you keep up with this nonsense." "Let go of me," Jack merely repeated himself. "Can't you understand what I'm saying?" Aaron roared out in frustration. Jack continued to ignore him and stubbornly insisted on leaving, but Aaron was unwilling to let go of his elbow. Just then, Jack whipped his head back and began to breathe heavily. There was a cold, unfathomable expression in his eyes, which seemed to be as deep as a bottomless pit. "Let me say this again. Let go of me." Even though Aaron had weathered many storms before, he too felt a sudden sense of chill. Just then, he suddenly heard April speak from behind. "Aaron, what are you guys doing?" "Sister-in-law, this dude, he's completely insane." When Aaron's cousin turned around, he saw April heading towards them with Sylvia. Sylvia was lying on the hospital bed and was being pushed over. There was a look of puzzlement in her listless eyes as she watched them. Aaron released his grip, and Jack immediately walked away. As he brushed past April, she called out to him, but he showed no response. Eventually, Sylvia feebly called out his name. "Jack!" His tall, straight back instantly stiffened. When he turned around to look in the direction of the voice, he saw Sylvia lying quietly on the hospital bed. Although she looked wan and haggard, her fair face and attractive features still looked beautiful and upright. He let out a soft gasp, and his eyes widened as he slowly made his way toward her. He nervously reached out his hand and touched her cheeks lightly and uneasily. "Sylvia, is this your soul that I'm seeing?" he asked gently. Sylvia fell silent. April looked around them and shivered. Coincidentally, her husband walked over, and she quickly went up to him and cozied up against his chest. "Sylvia, it's all my fault. I didn't even know that something had happened to you. I shouldn't have left you last night. I should have watched over you every single day. I shouldn't have gone back to sleep in the laboratory." A sudden look of agony and helplessness appeared in Jack's jet-black eyes. "Didn't we agree on watching a movie together the day after tomorrow? What should I do if you were to leave so suddenly?
What should I do if you were to leave me behind? I wouldn't want to live anymore. Take me with you."
Sylvia was already slightly baffled to begin with. However, after she heard what he said, she became even more puzzled. However, he had always been innocent and genuine. When Sylvia listened to his words of desperation, her heart inevitably ached. She was initially disappointed by how he did not show up when she had rushed into the hospital, as well as how uncontactable he was. However, when she saw his current behavior, she felt a lump form in her throat. "Jack, you'll be the death of me." Sylvia inhaled several breaths of air, and she felt a slight painful ache in her lungs. "I'm not dead yet." Jack's jet-black eyebrows quivered, and a look of confusion flashed across his eyes. "But your mom said that you're dead." Sylvia was rendered speechless. "Give me your hand," Sylvia ordered feebly. Jack reached out his hand obediently. Sylvia then summoned all her strength and bit into his skin without going easy on him. His skin tore open and fresh blood oozed out of his wound. "Can I even bite you if I'm dead, you fool?" Jack stared at his bleeding hand in stupefaction, before his jet-black eyes gradually began to slide back into focus. In the next instant, he looked at Sylvia again and began to touch her face, as if he could not believe that she was right in front of him. When he felt her warmth, he asked, "Am I hallucinating? Sylvia, are you really alive?" "Of course I'm alive." Sylvia would have beaten him up if she could get up. "You dabble in so much science, and yet you believe in these strange superstitions? Aren't you ashamed of yourself?" "I didn't believe in them until I met you." Jack forcefully grabbed her hand, his face beaming with elation as if he had discovered what he had lost. "Sylvia, you're a cop, and sometimes I get afraid that you'd be in danger. But I can't stop you from being a cop because I like you. Thus, I told myself that there will be another life. And even if you and I are gone one day, we would still be able to meet in our next lives. I can only console myself like that." Sylvia was not someone who would get easily emotional, especially in the presence of so many people. However, her eyes reddened when she heard what he said, and tears almost flowed out of her eyes. "You fool! I'll live until 120 and not a day less." Jack was momentarily stunned. "But I think I'll have difficulties doing that." Sylvia laughed, but her wound and lungs instantly began to hurt, triggering a bout of coughs. "Sylvia, you should stop talking." Jack was scared silly when he saw how violently she was coughing, and he felt as helpless as a child. "Let's head back to the ward first," the nurse said as she began to bring Sylvia back into the ward. April held on to Aaron's arm and exclaimed, "Professor Kipling is very affectionate." Aaron replied coldly, "You women are easily duped by his sweet talk. Everyone knows how to flatter others, but being reliable is the most important thing about a man. This guy's too arrogant. He dared to glare at me and even threaten me." April blinked several times, her face riddled with doubt. Aaron inched closer to her and continued, "I'm serious. At that time, his gaze was pretty freaky. His aura was terrifying as well. It was as if he was going to kill me if I dared to utter another word." April peeked at her husband, and she realized that he grew silent, which was rare and unusual. "Dear, are you shocked?" There. April began to massage his chest teasingly. While Aaron enjoyed her massage, he still cared about his pride as a man. "Of course not. I even weathered death in times of war. Why would I be terrified by him? I merely think that this dude doesn't show any respect for his elders," he immediately rebutted. "You're right. I'll get him to apologize to you later on." April nodded her head in agreement. When Caitlin saw everyone return to the ward, she immediately walked towards Sylvia. "Are you tired? Does it hurt anywhere?" Sylvia glanced at her mother sullenly. "I feel terrible all over. But the thing I'm most uncomfortable with is the fact that you told Jack that I was dead." I did not, Caitlin replied crossly. Why would I curse my daughter out of the blue? Sylvia swept a disgruntled look at Jack. Jack seemed aggrieved as he scratched the back of his head. But, Auntie, you clearly said that Sylvia was gone. I thought that you meant that. I meant that she was gone for a checkup, Caitlin replied flatly. I was in a bad mood, so I left out the subsequent parts of the sentence. Do you have a problem with that? Well, you shouldn't have jumped to conclusions. Jack lowered his head in silence. He did not dare to have an opinion about what Sylvia's mother had said. Besides, we also talked to you in the corridor earlier on, and you should have seen your attitude towards us. Aaron began to settle scores with him. Jack looked at them blankly before asking hesitantly, When did I bump into you guys? Aaron was speechless. He had tussled with Jack for a long time earlier on, and Jack had even glared at him. To think that Jack did not even care about him at all. Aaron's cousin choked when he heard Jack's reply and gave a thumbs up to Jack. Impressive! We've talked to you for so long, we might as well be talking to the air. I'm sorry, Jack said apologetically. My mind was completely blank earlier on. I genuinely have no idea what I did. Aaron smirked coldly. What's the point in apologizing when you can correct all of these flaws of yours? If Sylvia had left us last night, you truly wouldn't be able to see her anymore. We kept calling you, but you never answered your phone. Let's assume that you've married Sylvia and she became pregnant. If we can't reach you during a critical moment of her labor, then what's the point in having a husband like you? Sylvia remained silent. While she was aware of Jack's nature, she was disappointed when she heard about how uncontactable he was when she regained consciousness in the morning. Aaron's words were like a hammer, clobbering against Jack's heart a few times. Jack's eyes dimmed. He knew that he was not considered normal when he was compared with other people. However, he was slowly changing himself throughout all the years that he had known Sylvia. My phone rang several times last night. I was doing my experiment at the time, and because the call was from an unknown number, I didn't pick it up. You better save our numbers as soon as possible then, April replied quickly, out of fear that Aaron would continue to lecture Jack. You should also save the contact details of all of Sylvia's family members. If not, none of us would be able to reach you. Jeremy watched over Sylvia for the whole of last night. He even brought her fruits, breakfast, and necessities. Jack immediately panicked when he had heard what she said. His jet-black eyes looked as helpless as a fawn in shock. Sylvia, he murmured. Yeah, I'm hurting and I need to rest. Sylvia closed her eyes lazily. All right. Jack nodded his head furiously before turning to ask the nurse about Sylvia's condition. Caitlin didn't sleep well the night before, so April asked her to head home first. She had planned to stay by herself as it was more convenient since they were all girls. Jack turned to April and said, You can go home too, just leave her to me. I will take good care of Sylvia. No, it's okay. I think you should stay, April, Sylvia said with her eyes closed. Jack looked disappointed as he lowered his head. Sylvia must still be mad at him. She didn't even want him to take care of her. April noticed his sad face. He looked like their dog when someone didn't get a treat. She pitied him and explained, Some things are easier and more convenient when it's all girls around. I understand, Jack said reluctantly. April kept quiet. She wondered if he fully understood everything she had just said. When everyone had left, some colleagues and friends dropped by to visit Sylvia at the hospital. Sylvia tried her best to entertain her visitors. At around noon, an unshaven captain went over to visit.
Sylvia, I'm so sorry. I should have visited you last night, but I've been up all night interrogating some suspects. They were only revealed the location where they hid all the abducted women this morning. I had to plan a mission to rescue all of them safely. But because of the hostility and physical abuse by the suspects, one of the women had to be sent to the hospital.
What perverts, Sylvia said through gritted teeth. Thank goodness they rescued the victims on time. We must put this man behind bars.
Of course, but we have to look into where he got his firearms from. I don't understand how a farmer can get his hands on a Beretta 92F,
said the captain, perplexed. Sylvia frowned. You're worried that there's an underground arms trafficking ring involved in this?
But the guy insisted that he picked it up in the woods.
The captain smirked.
I think this whole thing is fishy. According to my investigation, this guy hasn't been able to find a wife because of his family condition. Rejection and alienation from his community were what gave birth to his twisted mindset and perverted tendencies. That's why he ended up abducting women. I made a home visit and his living conditions were terrible. He couldn't have had enough money to buy a gun like that. At most, he could only afford a hunting rifle.
That's true, Sylvia frowned. Last night, he rushed out all of a sudden and started shooting right away. It was quite a vicious one. No matter what the results of his psychological evaluation are, I think he needs to be locked up. He's got sociopathic tendencies.
Don't worry about it anymore. Just focus on recuperating and getting better.
When Captain left, Sylvia looked at April worriedly. Jack, who was just listening, stood up suddenly and said enthusiastically, Sylvia, you can tell me if you need anything. Sylvia looked at him perplexed. April laughed and asked, Do you need to go to the bathroom? Sylvia nodded. Jack quickly said again, But the doctor said that you shouldn't move around now. I'll go get the adult potty for you. He quickly took it out from under the bed. Sylvia was blushing as she looked at him and said, I'm a girl. How am I supposed to use that? Jack was speechless. He looked at it for a moment before he finally realized. You are right. April tried hard to hold back her laughter as she took out a bedpan. Mr. Kipling, can you please excuse yourself for a moment? Jack was frustrated at himself again. I'm sorry, Sylvia. I'm used to taking care of my dad back in the day, so I didn't think too much about it. April, let me do it. I really can handle it. I have to get used to these things. I can't always trouble you to take care of my girlfriend. He emphasized the word girlfriend. April was amused. She wasn't even part of his love triangle. Did he really have to claim his territory like that? She turned around and noticed Sylvia's troubled face. She realized how insensitive and ignorant the man was. It's all right. April can help me. You should excuse yourself, said Sylvia weakly, but with a firm gaze. Jack felt like a deflated balloon. He was instantly dejected. He didn't dare object, so he walked out of the room with his head hung low. After he walked out, April laughed. It's all right, isn't it? I don't believe you guys just stopped holding hands, kissing, and hugging. She knew a thing or two about these things, so she easily noticed how intimate their relationship had gotten. Sylvia was a little embarrassed. Luckily, she had lost a bit too much blood the night before, so she couldn't even blush. April, would you take a piss in front of my brother? Uh-huh. Would you? April was taken aback by her choice of words. I have to save some dignity for myself, Sylvia sighed. I'm already super embarrassed in my current state. I look so ill and pale. I don't want him to see me pooping and peeing all over myself either. I don't think I'd be able to live with that for the rest of my life. I don't think Professor Kipling would mind at all. Besides, he looked quite hurt when you rejected him earlier. April laughed. Men are silly sometimes. They never know what women are thinking. Jack specifically was quite oblivious to things going on around him. When he came back into the room, he checked the bedpan under the bed. He looked at April with a troubled expression. Just leave it next time. I can pour it away. Sylvia pulled her blanket over her face and said with embarrassment, Jack, why do you have to talk so much? Jack thought she was complaining about the amount of noise he was making, so he kept quiet after that. Mr. Maxwell delivered lunch to them, and Jack fed Sylvia in the afternoon. At around 2 o'clock, the doctor went over to do an electrocardiogram on Sylvia. When he looked around the room, he thought Jack was April's boyfriend and asked,
Why isn't your boyfriend around today? He came to ask me about your condition this morning. He seemed pretty concerned.
Sylvia was a little confused. Doctor, you must be mistaken. Her boyfriend was sitting right there with his back straight and his face confused.
Mistaken? The doctor was puzzled. That tall man with tan skin, isn't that your boyfriend? He looked quite manly.
Sylvia knew who he was referring to instantly. She was a little surprised. She thought that Jeremy had already left early in the morning. She didn't know that he went to the doctor to check up on her. As Sylvia was distracted, Jack quickly stood up to introduce himself to the doctor.
I am her boyfriend.
The doctor was a little surprised. He realized that he had made a mistake and corrected himself.
I'm sorry, I haven't met you before.
Jack was disappointed. If he had arrived earlier, the doctor wouldn't have made that mistake.
Please update me about my girlfriend's condition in the future. Also, I'm really grateful to you for saving my girlfriend's life.
He formally shook the doctor's hand.
I will always remember your kindness and benevolence.
The doctor was speechless. Sylvia was embarrassed by his shameless display of gratitude.
Jack took his phone and asked, "Can I please have your number?"
After the doctor had given him his number, Jack added,
"Can I add you on social media or even have your email address? Just in case I can't reach you on the phone. I'd rest easier if there's another way of contacting you." The doctor, with beads of sweat dripping all over, replied nervously, "Don't worry, you can definitely reach me on the phone. Doctors have to keep our cell phones turned on 24/7.
Jack asked,
"What if I can't get through?"
The doctor was about to break down. He didn't expect this good-looking, handsome fella to be such a pain in the neck.
"Then our salaries will get docked."
The doctor seemed extra eager to leave the room after he was done with his examination. He was afraid that Jack would continue talking to him. April was clutching her stomach as she helplessly tried to hold back her laughter.
Professor Kipling was hilarious. It was no wonder that Sylvia chose to get together with him. He was absolutely hilarious.
Just as she was done laughing, Jack turned to her and took out his little notepad.
"Sorry, can I trouble you to write down all of your contact details? Apart from your number, your Instagram, email address, Facebook, Tinder."
April was speechless. She then realized how the doctor from earlier on had felt and empathized with him. Sylvia cleared her throat and said with amusement,
I didn't know that you know about Tinder as well. I thought that you don't even have a mailbox. I went online and searched for the most trendy and popular ways people stay in contact nowadays. I'm just worried that something like this will happen again in the future, so I want to know how to reach all the people around you,"
Jack said seriously. Sylvia rolled her eyes.
"Besides you, it's pretty easy to get in touch with everyone else. Just a phone call will do." "I will do better,"
Jack said sadly. April laughed to ease the atmosphere. "It's all right. Men always take a while to grow and learn. This is Professor Kipling's first relationship after all. There's no way to get it perfectly right the first time. I think from now on, you will be contactable 24/7 by phone. Am I right?" Jack nodded his head vigorously. Sylvia's sister-in-law was such a lovely person. Sylvia glanced sideways at Jack. "Forget about it. Do you know what those platforms are for? It's for people to get in touch with each other." Jack was confused.
"Touch what?"
April let out a forced cough. She didn't want to be any part of that conversation. I'm gonna go make a phone call." She would have become a real light bulb in the room if she had stayed any longer. After the door closed behind April, Sylvia inhaled sharply and explained, "Touch all over your body. I'm talking about strangers and casual sex." Jack frowned deeply and shook his head.
"I won't use it anymore then."
Said Sylvia as she shut her eyes. She had spoken too much and she was feeling a little out of breath. Jack sat closer to her bed now that the door was closed. He held Sylvia's cold hands and asked softly,
"Sylvia, does it hurt a lot?"
"Yes," Sylvia replied softly. Jack bit his lips. He didn't know what to do. He hated to see her in pain, but he didn't know what else he could do to make her feel better. Sylvia, it's all my fault. I was too careless. I should have made a bulletproof helmet and pants for you, too.
Sylvia burst into laughter but winced in pain right after she did. She had to endure the pain as she asked, "A bulletproof helmet? Do you want me to look like a bank robber?"
Don't laugh, I'm serious. Jack pursed his lips seriously. I really wanted to beat up that guy who hurt you.
Justice will be served, Sylvia shook her head. Don't worry, you modified the bulletproof vest really well for me. The doctor said that the bullet would have gone right through my chest if it wasn't for the vest. I'm lucky to have you by my side. Jack winced when she talked about a bullet passing through her chest.
Sylvia, are you still mad at me? You aren't upset anymore that I wasn't the first person by your bedside when you woke up?
Who cares if you're the first person I see? Sylvia rolled her eyes. I wanted to see my parents more badly. Jack was frustrated, but he could understand. Her parents were the ones who raised her after all.
Do you want to see me next?
I want to see my brother next and my grandparents too, Sylvia said as she smiled apathetically. Jack gritted his teeth. He had to give in. They were her family after all.
Who's next then?
Before Sylvia could reply, he quickly interrupted her and said,
If it's still not me next, I'm going to get angry.
Sylvia nearly burst into laughter watching his sad face, and she tried hard not to. She couldn't stand the guy making her crack up even when she was injured. What are you going to do when you're angry? Jack looked at her with resentment. All sorts of ideas floated through his head, but he didn't think it was a good idea to act on any of them. Finally, he said,
I won't do anything as long as you're not angry at me. I know I am far from being perfect. I've been trying my best to improve ever since I met you. I didn't even enjoy listening to others talk about this, but I've been paying attention to whatever your family says. I didn't like using phones in the past, but I'm trying to learn them now. Sylvia, I'll do my best to change, all right? I'll become a man that you can rely on and trust. I promise that this will never happen again.
Sylvia was pleased to hear this from him, but the tone of his voice changed towards the end. Of course, this shouldn't happen again. Do you want me to get shot by a gun again?
Of course not. Jack shook his head vigorously. I mean, I'll be by your side when you go into labor next time.
Who said anything about having children with you? Sylvia rolled her eyes. Jack looked disappointed.
Well, I'll be there even if you have children with another man.
Sylvia was speechless. What an idiot. It would be so uncomfortable if he was around while she had children with another man. That day would probably never come, though.
Stop talking. My lungs feel a little tired. I need some peace and quiet,
Sylvia said softly but uncomfortably.
All right, go to sleep then, Jack said quickly. I'll be by your side.
Sylvia slept for about an hour, and when she woke up, she felt bored as she couldn't move around or do anything. Jack decided to read her a novel. April overheard their conversation while she was sitting in the room. Jack said,
Sylvia, let me read you the book, The 3-Body Problem. I think this book's very well written, and the storyline's very creative. I like it a lot.
Sylvia said,
I don't want that. Read Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs to me.
Jack was flabbergasted. April nearly spat out all the water that she was drinking. Sylvia truly led a tough and tenacious life.
Jack said, It's hard to read that book. Why don't I read you The Outlaws of the Marsh instead?
Sylvia replied,
Fine. Read me Battle Through the Heavens then.
Jack was a little tough-tongued.
That book has about 5 million words.
Sylvia replied,
Yeah, what's wrong with that?
Jack said,
Nothing.
April felt bad for Jack as she witnessed the whole exchange. She pitied him for having to read such a long novel. But he should have known better than to suggest reading a sci-fi novel to Sylvia. She was all about action after all. When the two of them were engaged in the novel, April went to give her nanny a call. Is little Apple making a fuss when we're not around? Nope, he's playing with Jeffrey, the nanny said.
Jeffrey heard about little Missy's accident and he volunteered to come over in the morning to take care of little Apple. He's doing a fantastic job. He's even more professional than me. April recalled that her brother was only starting school after a few days. As Sylvia was going to be in the hospital for a week, she would probably have to stay there to take care of her. She was glad that there was someone to take care of little Apple while she was away, although she was curious to find out what happened at his girlfriend's house. During dinner, Aaron called her.
I'm going to the police station before coming over later.
All right, April said as she had her dinner.
Are you eating?
Aaron asked as he could hear the sound of her chewing. April looked over at Jack, who was spoon-feeding Sylvia. He was so meticulous and sweet. A spoonful of rice followed by a spoonful of toppings. He was even more patient than she was with little Apple. She sighed and said, Nope, I'm full from looking at the public display of affection right here.
Aaron took a moment to get what she was saying. I thought we were the masters of public displays of affection.
Yeah, well, someone else is one-upping us today.
Aaron paused before saying, Are you saying that you miss me? Do you want some hugs or kisses?
April kept quiet. Why did he twist her words again?
Behave yourself. I'll be there soon after I go to the police station. Moi.
Aaron answered quickly. He hung up immediately, and April nearly choked on her food. Some time had passed since then. At 7 o'clock, Jeremy, Clyde, and Lenny went over to visit Sylvia. The three of them brought along a bunch of tonics and fruits. Jeremy was carrying a bouquet of tulips in his hands as well.
The hospital ward reeks of disinfectant and chemicals. I thought flowers would help clear the air a little. Maybe it'll make you feel better and more comfortable too.
Thank you, Sylvia said. She looked at him with gratitude as she lay on her bed. She knew about everything he had done for her the night before. He was even more mature and sweet to her after they broke up. But they were now a thing of the past. Jack was standing on the side as he frowned anxiously. He didn't know what else to do, so he continued reading from his phone.
The night was dark and the moon hung high. It was the perfect opportunity to kill someone, with the wind blowing in the night sky.
Everyone looked at him strangely. Lenny asked,
Professor Kipling, what are you doing?
I'm reading Battle of the Heavens to Sylvia, Jack replied, looking innocent.
Oh my goodness, that's a really long book, isn't it?
Clyde asked.
When I read that book, I skimmed through it really quickly, but it still took me about a week to finish it. You're going to take forever if you're reading it word for word, line by line.
Jack shook his head.
It's all right, as long as Sylvia enjoys it. After this, I'm planning to read Snow White to her as well. She likes it.
The room fell awkwardly silent. Sylvia wanted to crawl underneath the bed out of embarrassment. She was just teasing him in the afternoon, but he took her seriously. And right there and then, he exposed her in front of everyone. She was being judged by all of them.